Chapter 247. The entire sky above the sea was filled with a destructive aura. The waves were raised to a height of 10,000 meters, and in the endless explosion, any living thing that entered would be destroyed, including saints. Boom! Chu Fengmian had already sensed that the destruction was coming towards him. A feeling of death filled his mind. No, I will definitely die in the explosion. Such an explosion is enough to obliterate everything I have. Chu Fengmian clearly understood that in such an explosion, in the explosion of a saint, Chu Fengmian had no hope. Chu Fengmian didn't have any hope of surviving. Even if Chu Fengmian had the battle dragon tactic to recover, once he was completely killed, there would be no possibility of him recovering. Saint Blood Essence, devour. All the golden spirit pills out, devour all of them. Chu Fengmian made up his mind. Rather than waiting for death, he would rather take one last gamble. Chu Fengmian devoured all the Saint Blood Essence that he had just obtained from Saint Chu Heng. He wanted to risk his life and attempt to break through to the divine power realm. In such an explosion, this was the only chance for Chu Fengmian to survive. Chu Fengmian took a deep breath, and all the Saint Blood Essence and Golden Spirit Pills were turned into a long river of spiritual energy under Chu Fengmian's control. All of them were devoured by Chu Fengmian. In such a critical moment, there was no time for Chu Fengmian to devour bit by bit. He could only try to break through the explosion as fast as he could. The power of the Battle Dragon skill was pushed to the limit. The shadow of the ancient Battle Dragon was condensed on Chu Fengmian's body. Ancient Dragon Turtle, run! I can't run away now, but you can. Chu Fengmian looked at the ancient Dragon Turtle and roared. Even if Chu Fengmian ran away now, he wouldn't be able to escape from the explosion. He would still be killed. However, the ancient Dragon Turtle was different. As a demon god, he could survive as long as he escaped from the core of the explosion. Even if Chu Fengmian died, he wouldn't want others to die with him. But young master, you, the ancient Dragon Turtle said anxiously. He knew that Chu Fengmian would definitely die under such an explosion. However, he couldn't leave Chu Fengmian alone. After all, without Chu Fengmian, the ancient Dragon Turtle wouldn't have been able to step into the divine force realm. Demonic beasts weren't humans, but they had feelings too. He couldn't let the ancient Dragon Turtle abandon Chu Fengmian for nothing. Leave quickly. I'll strive for the divine force realm and can forcibly endure it. I'll definitely have a way to survive. Chu Fengmian roared. Hurry up. If they didn't leave now, it would be too late. Saint Chu Heng's explosive power would soon reach them. Alright. The ancient Dragon Turtle took one last glance at Chu Fengmian and chose to leave. Right now, it could only choose to believe in Chu Fengmian. Otherwise, it had no other way to help Chu Fengmian. He could only leave now. Seeing the primordial Dragon Turtle leave, Chu Fengmian's only worry finally disappeared. Alright, now it all depends on this move whether we can withstand it or not. Chu Fengmian had already activated the Battle Dragon technique to the extreme, causing his entire appearance to begin to transform into a half-human half-dragon appearance. Chu Fengmian's strength had already reached its limit. After refining the ancient war dragon's blood essence, he began to transform into a dragon very quickly. 30 drops, 35 drops, 40 drops. On Chu Fengmian's body, the ancient war dragon's blood essence was madly condensed and his body gradually began to transform into an ancient war dragon. Almost at the same time, the power of the explosion had already reached him. Boom! In an instant, Chu Fengmian's body was already filled with endless destructive power. Under this power, Chu Fengmian's body was constantly being shattered. However, almost at the same time, the power of the Battle Dragon technique was unleashed, causing his body to regenerate again. Due to the countless elixirs and Saint's blood essence, Chu Fengmian's body's recovery ability had reached an extreme. In an instant, Chu Fengmian's body was destroyed hundreds of times. However, under the recovery of the Battle Dragon technique, Chu Fengmian's body was regenerated again and again. Although it required a lot of spiritual energy to regenerate each time, Chu Fengmian had devoured so many elixirs and Saint's blood essence that was close to half of Saint Chu Heng's blood essence. Naturally, the consumption of spiritual energy was not a problem. In particular, the consumption of spiritual energy had actually weakened Chu Fengmian's dragonization bit by bit. Alright, this will work. Chu Fengmian's eyes lit up. Although the power of the explosion had destroyed Chu Fengmian's body countless times, it was not enough to destroy Chu Fengmian in one go. As long as Chu Fengmian still had a little bit of hair left, he could use the power of the battle dragon technique to regenerate. The repeated rebirth and destruction made Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy seem to have skyrocketed again. However, Chu Fengmian knew that this destructive power was only the prelude. Saint Chu Heng's true power had not erupted yet. Now that he could not break through to the wind-resisting realm and control the power of a saint, he would still be killed by the explosion. Increasing this little bit of power was meaningless. Regenerate. I need to condense more primordial war dragon blood essence. All of Chu Fengmian's power came from the battle dragon technique and the ancient battle dragon blood essence in his body. Therefore, if Chu Fengmian wanted to break through, the only thing he could do was to continuously regenerate the ancient battle dragon blood essence. Now that he was constantly regenerating his body, Chu Fengmian avoided the danger of dragonization. Without the danger of dragonization, Chu Fengmian naturally did not have any hesitation and began to regenerate the ancient battle dragon blood essence with all his might. 45 drops. 50 drops. 55 drops. Chu Fengmian constantly converted the spiritual energy in his body into drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence. However, the speed was still too slow. Chu Fengmian could already feel that the final explosion of Saint Chu Heng's self-destruction was coming. This explosion required one's strength to reach the level of a saint to withstand it. Chu Fengmian's refining speed was still too slow. Faster. We need to be faster. Chu Fengmian thought anxiously. Chu Fengmian had cultivated bitterly for 2 lifetimes, and he did not want to be destroyed just like that. 80 drops. 85 drops. 90 drops. On the ancient battle dragon's shadow, drops of blood essence rapidly condensed. Soon there were 90 drops. Chu Fengmian could already feel that he was not far away from the strength of a saint. He was just one step away from breaking through. 97 drops. 98 drops. 99 drops. Chu Fengmian frantically condensed the blood essence. However, almost at the same time, Saint Chu Heng's self-destruction suddenly erupted. Chapter 248. The explosion sent all living creatures within 100 miles of the sea region flying. Large amounts of seawater were evaporated, and the waves were roaring like a tsunami. The power of a saint's self-destruction was enough to shake the heavens and earth. Not long after the explosion, a figure quickly returned to the location of the explosion. It was the primordial dragon turtle. He kept looking around as if he was looking for something. Finally, he saw a body floating on the sea. His figure moved as he hurriedly descended, grabbed the body, and left. Not long after the primordial dragon turtle left, 2 figures suddenly arrived. These 2 figures broke through the space and came here. They were terrifying existences who had mastered the law of space. 2 saints had arrived. The 2 saints were also constantly looking around, observing everything around them. Chu Heng was actually forced to self-detonate by someone. Who did it? Although he's ranked at the bottom among the saints, there are only a few saints in the entire victorious Wu country. No one should dare to deal with him openly. A saint's eyes flickered as he asked in confusion. It's impossible for the Martial God Academy's saints to do anything. The 4 major sects and the old guys from the royal family of victorious Wu country won't do anything either. Although it's possible for the saints of the 4 major sects to do so, they don't have the guts to kill Chu Heng so blatantly. The only ones who have the ability to do so are those old guys in the black market. The other saint analyzed. It wasn't easy for a saint to be killed in victorious Wu country. After all, even if Saint Chuheng was only at the first level of the divine power realm, he was still a saint. There weren't more than 20 saints in the entire victorious Wu country. Moreover, one had to be at least at the 7th level of the divine power realm to be able to kill Chuheng. With such a narrow range, there were only a few people who could do it. Those old guys from the black market dare to deal with Chuheng? Don't they want to reconcile? Not necessarily. Let's see what's going on first. The moment the saint spoke, he spat out a mouthful of blood and a water mirror formed in front of him. The scene in the water mirror was the last moment of Chuheng Saint's self-destruction. However, the water mirror shattered in an instant. Among them, only a white-haired man appeared. There was no one else. Even though they were all saints, it was extremely difficult for them to divine what had already happened, let alone divine what had already happened. It was not easy to restore everything in an instant. What a stranger! Could it be that he's not a saint from our victorious martial country? The saint frowned when he saw the white-haired man. There had never been a saint like this in the entire victorious Wu country. It was no wonder that he suspected that this person might not be from victorious Wu country. After all, they all knew about the saints of victorious Wu country. No, this white-haired man isn't a saint. His energy is demonic energy. The other saint's eyes suddenly flashed as he recognized the primordial dragon turtle. This should be a demon god. This sea region should be his territory. Chuheng chased Chu Fengmian into this sea region. He must have intruded into the demon god's territory and was killed by the demon god. When he spoke, his voice was filled with regret. No matter how much they thought about it, they would never have thought that Chuheng Saint would be killed by a demon god. Chu Fengmian must have died at the hands of that demon god. Otherwise, he would have been killed by Chuheng's self-detonation. What a pity, all of his wealth, including the rich lush steel, are now in the hands of that demon god. The saint sighed. They also wanted Chu Fengmian's wealth, but it seemed that they would not be able to get it now. They did not want to clash head-on with a demon god. Let's go. It's good that Chu Fengmian has been dealt with. Let's tell the academy about Chuheng. The two saints looked at each other and left together. On the other side, the primordial dragon turtle had brought Chu Fengmian's body back to the cave on the deserted island. Chu Fengmian's body was badly mutilated by the explosion. His injuries were so severe that even the battle dragon could not heal him in a short time. Chu Fengmian's aura had become extremely weak, as if he could die at any time. He's still breathing after such an explosion. Young master is really lucky. I wonder if he can survive this time. The primordial dragon turtle looked at Chu Fengmian and sighed. Chu Fengmian's injuries could no longer be healed by external help. Whether he could survive and recover from his injuries or die, it all depended on Chu Fengmian himself. The only thing the primordial dragon turtle could do now was to guard the door and prevent others from disturbing Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian had completely fainted. His mind was blank. The power of the explosion was too severe. Even if Chu Fengmian had urgently gathered his strength to the limit, he was now on the verge of death from the explosion. The primordial battle dragon's shadow could be seen in the blurry flesh on Chu Fengmian's body. A total of 100 drops of primordial battle dragon's blood essence condensed into a miniature version of the primordial battle dragon. It was in Chu Fengmian's body, providing him with a steady stream of energy. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Chu Fengmian still did not wake up. His mind was still blank, but the injuries on his body seemed to have recovered a little. Such a coma lasted for almost 3 months. It was not until 3 months later that Chu Fengmian's injuries completely recovered. The spiritual aura on his body gradually calmed down, and his strength began to recover. Finally, Chu Fengmian slowly opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was a cave. Chu Fengmian turned his head and saw the primordial dragon turtle at the side. The primordial dragon turtle also noticed that Chu Fengmian was awake and walked over. How long have I been unconscious? Chu Fengmian slowly got up. He felt sore and numb. Although he did not know how long he had been unconscious, Chu Fengmian knew that it was definitely not a short time. Young master has been unconscious for 3 months. 3 months. Chapter 249. No one would be able to survive such a severe injury. Chu Fengmian could only rely on the recovery ability of the battle dragon skill and the continuous supply of spiritual energy from his divine meridians. Now, he had finally recovered. Chu Fengmian moved his consciousness and observed his body. He couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, I managed to condense 100 drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence at the last moment and formed a formation in my body. That was how I managed to withstand the power of the explosion and survive. If I only managed to condense 99 drops, I would have died. 100 drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence was like a dividing line, allowing me to achieve a breakthrough in my strength. I guess this is a blessing in disguise. Chu Fengmian's body was now fully recovered. Although there were still some injuries, they weren't a hindrance. Chu Fengmian woke up and would be fully recovered in a day. With the support of the 100 drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence, Chu Fengmian's cultivation level had a breakthrough and reached the first level of the Imperial Wind Realm. Chu Fengmian could feel that his current strength was more than 100 times stronger than before. He was probably strong enough to truly control the abundant lush monument. Chu Fengmian stood up and the abundant lush monument appeared in his hand. He immediately blasted it out. Boom! The power of this attack was terrifying to the extreme. The rumbling sound echoed for a long time, and even the space was about to be shattered. Compared to when Chu Fengmian used 10,000 golden spirit pills to activate his strength, the power was several times stronger. Chu Fengmian could finally control the abundant lush monument. With his own strength, the power was much stronger than when he used to rely on the power of elixirs. Young Master's strength is now enough to contend with some saints at the first or second level of the divine power realm. Even this old man might not be a match for young Master. The ancient dragon turtle said with a smile as he watched Chu Fengmian attack. His words were filled with incomparable surprise. Chu Fengmian had just stepped into the Imperial Wind Realm. His strength had truly reached the realm of a saint. It was impossible for Chu Fengmian to reach such terrifying strength with the bloodline of the ancient battle dragon. He did not understand where Chu Fengmian's terrifying strength came from. Chu Fengmian's strength was something that only Chu Fengmian himself knew. Part of his strength was due to the knowledge he had gained from his previous life. Now, all the martial skills he had learned were top-notch in the 9 regions. This allowed Chu Fengmian's strength to far surpass other martial artists of the same realm. The other point was Chu Fengmian's cultivation technique, the battle dragon art. Chu Fengmian had comprehended the power of the battle dragon art more than once. This was definitely a cultivation technique that surpassed the entire 9 realms. The combination of the two was enough for Chu Fengmian to cross a great realm to face the enemy. In the entire 9 regions, there was probably no one else like Chu Fengmian. He had lived 2 lives and had obtained a terrifying cultivation technique like the battle dragon spell. Coupled with all sorts of fortuitous encounters, Chu Fengmian was able to become who he was today. Given my current strength, I'm most probably not inferior to those at the 3rd level of the Divine Force realm. However, I have yet to comprehend the true laws of space, and have no way to condense a domain. Therefore, I can only fight against those at the 2nd level of the Divine Force realm. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. Chu Fengmian was clear about his current strength. He should have reached the 2nd level of the Divine Force realm. Although Chu Fengmian had the strength of the Divine Force realm, he had yet to comprehend the laws of space. As a result, Chu Fengmian was unable to condense a domain. A domain was still extremely useful in a battle between saints. However, with such strength, he had already stepped into the saint realm. In victorious Wu country, anyone who wanted to deal with Chu Fengmian would have to think twice. If Chu Fengmian were to meet Saint Chu Heng again, Chu Fengmian was confident that he could kill him. At the very least, Chu Fengmian was extremely confident in dealing with a saint like Saint Chu Heng, who had just stepped into the divine force realm. Ancient Dragon Turtle, your bloodline has already evolved a lot. I'm afraid that you're not inferior to some true dragons whose bloodline isn't too pure. Chu Fengmian glanced at the ancient dragon turtle and said with a smile, "Now that you're just one step away from becoming a true dragon, I'll lend you a hand today and let you truly become a true dragon." It was because of the timely arrival of the ancient dragon turtle that Chu Fengmian was able to escape from Saint Chu Heng's pursuit and break through to the wind-resisting realm. Chu Fengmian was a person who was fair in his rewards and punishments. The ancient dragon turtle was loyal and Chu Fengmian would not treat him badly. Now that the ancient dragon turtle had stepped into the divine force realm and was about to reach the bottleneck to become a demon god. Now, Chu Fengmian was going to help him transform his bloodline and let him truly become a true dragon. Now that Chu Fengmian had awakened 100 drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence, this was not impossible. As he spoke, Chu Fengmian moved his fingertip and drops of golden blood flew out. These drops of golden blood left Chu Fengmian's body and instantly turned into small golden dragons. They looked like miniature ancient battle dragons. Each of them wanted to escape, but under Chu Fengmian's power, they all flew towards the ancient dragon turtle. Thank you, young master. The ancient dragon turtle was stunned at first, then he was overjoyed. The golden blood was much purer than the blood that the ancient dragon turtle had obtained. The blood that Chu Fengmian gave to the ancient dragon turtle was enough to transform his bloodline and become a demon god. This time, Chu Fengmian gave him more blood. If he refined it, it would be enough to transform the ancient dragon turtle's bloodline completely and become a true dragon. Why aren't you swallowing it? The loss of the ancient battle dragon blood essence made Chu Fengmian dizzy. The ancient battle dragon blood essence had caused Chu Fengmian to lose at least 10% of his strength. It would take at least a few days for him to recover. However, to repay the ancient dragon turtle's kindness, this little loss was nothing. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, the ancient dragon turtle hurriedly swallowed the floating golden blood drop by drop. The ancient dragon turtle's appearance changed from a white-haired man to his true form. It was a huge dragon turtle that was 100 feet tall. On the turtle shell behind him, a dragon diagram could be clearly seen. The dragon diagram was slowly forming under the power of the blood. The true dragon depicted in the dragon diagram was no different from a real true dragon. It was vivid and lifelike, as if it would break out of the diagram the moment it was formed. On the ancient dragon turtle's body, his demonic power was changing rapidly. A huge dragon aura suddenly appeared, causing all the demonic beasts on the desolate island to shiver. Roar! Chapter 250. Ascending to become a dragon. The body of the ancient dragon turtle had already shriveled up, and above it, a true dragon was flying. Shedding the body and becoming a true dragon, Chu Fengmian had only heard of such a scene from ancient books. This was his first time seeing it with his own eyes. Demonic beasts like the ancient dragon turtle with true dragon bloodline had the chance to ascend to become a dragon, but this chance was less than 1 in 10,000. Those who could truly ascend to become a dragon were few and far between. Only by obtaining a truly great opportunity would one be able to do so. For the ancient dragon turtle, breaking through to the divine power realm was already his limit. It was a great opportunity. Ascending to become a dragon was something he had never imagined before. A golden dragon roared out from the dragon diagram. Its scales were bronze in color, and there seemed to be some kind of special pattern on its scales. Ancient dragon. This ancient dragon turtle actually ascended to become an ancient dragon of the true dragon clan. Chu Fengmian was astonished when he saw the appearance of the ancient dragon turtle. The power of the ancient battle dragon's blood essence was indeed powerful to the extreme. This ancient dragon turtle had actually become an ancient dragon of the true dragon clan. The true dragon clan was divided into countless branches. Among them, the ancient dragon was one of the strongest branches. It was comparable to the true royal clan of the true dragon clan, the golden dragon clan. The future achievements of an ancient dragon were even possible for it to step into the life and death realm and surpass life and death. The ancient dragon roared in the sky and transformed into a white-haired man. It landed before Chu Fengmian and knelt down. "Young master, thank you for your gift. This old man is willing to be an ox or a horse in the future to repay you." Ascending to become a dragon was something the ancient dragon turtle had never thought of before. To be able to reach this step, he already had no regrets in life. "Don't worry, this is what you deserve. As long as you continue to follow me, not to mention becoming an ancient dragon, you might even become a dragon king in the future." Chu Fengmian looked at the ancient dragon turtle and said, "Dragon King was the title of the dragon clan with the purest bloodline. They were much stronger than ordinary true dragons, and were the kings of dragons. Becoming a dragon king was the true king of 10,000 dragons. Becoming a dragon king." Hearing these words, the primordial dragon turtle was shocked. In the past, the term Dragon King was an unattainable existence to him. But now, as an ancient dragon turtle, being able to ascend to become a dragon was already his dream. As for the Dragon King, he didn't even dare to think about it. But now, Chu Fengmian's words gave him some ideas. Chu Fengmian had just stepped into the wind-controlling realm, and his strength had reached the Saint Realm, which was enough to help him ascend to become a dragon. The reason why the ancient dragon turtle could ascend to become a dragon was mostly due to Chu Fengmian's power. Since he could ascend to become a dragon, it was not impossible for him to become a dragon king. At the thought of this, the ancient dragon turtle's tone towards Chu Fengmian became even more respectful. It was almost as if he was admiring him. "Yes, young master. This old man will follow young master forever." "Yes." Chu Fengmian nodded when he saw the primordial dragon turtle. The character of the primordial dragon turtle was extremely loyal. Chu Fengmian believed in its promise. Even after the primordial dragon turtle stepped into the divine force realm and became a demon god, it was still so obedient and had no arrogance at all. This made Chu Fengmian think highly of the primordial dragon turtle. That was why he was willing to help it ascend to become a dragon. Chu Fengmian wasn't just talking about helping the primordial dragon turtle become a dragon king again. Out of the 129,600 drops of blood essence of the battle dragon skill, Chu Fengmian had only condensed 100 drops. He had only grasped 1,000th of the power. If Chu Fengmian could fully grasp the power of the battle dragon skill, his bloodline would be greatly improved. By then, it would be possible for him to help the primordial dragon turtle become a dragon king. Chu Fengmian took a glance at the primordial dragon turtle and pondered for a moment. "You should change your name now. The name primordial dragon turtle is no longer suitable for you." Chu Fengmian called it primordial dragon turtle because there was no other primordial dragon turtle in Wuxing country. Therefore, it was fine for Chu Fengmian to call it that. However, after the primordial dragon turtle ascended to become a dragon and became an ancient dragon, it seemed a little wrong to call it that. "I was once born in the Luo River. Young master, you should call me Luo River." The primordial dragon turtle thought for a moment and said, "All right." Chu Fengmian nodded. A name was just a code name. He naturally wouldn't care about the primordial dragon turtle's name. Just when Chu Fengmian wanted to say something, a jade talisman suddenly flashed from his spatial ring. Chu Fengmian opened the jade talisman. There were only 4 words on it. The Crown Prince's Wedding. This jade talisman was given to him by Han Yueli before he left the sacred land. Chu Fengmian had never used this jade talisman to contact her. Now that 3 months had passed, Chu Fengmian didn't expect that it was time for the wedding. Han Yueli told Chu Fengmian this news, which meant that today was the day of her wedding with the crown prince. It seems that I really can't rest for a moment. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold. The crown prince's wedding. Now that Chu Fengmian had stepped into the wind-controlling realm, it was indeed necessary for him to go back and take care of things. Chu Fengmian still remembered that the crown prince wanted to kill him. Last time when Chu Fengmian made a scene in Wuxing Academy, the crown prince didn't appear. It was very likely that he was outside, so Chu Fengmian didn't have a chance to settle the score with him. This time, it was time to settle the score with interest. Moreover, the person the crown prince was going to marry was Han Yueli. How could he let Han Yueli marry someone else? The only person who could marry Han Yueli was Chu Fengmian. Of course, Chu Fengmian would go and disturb the wedding today. Luaha, it seems that we have to do something. Chu Fengmian glanced at the primordial dragon turtle beside him and said. The crown prince's wedding was a major event between the two giants, Wuxing Academy and Cold Snow Pavilion. There were many experts who wanted to disturb the wedding. Chu Fengmian alone wasn't enough. However, it was different with the primordial dragon demon god. The primordial dragon turtle had become an ancient dragon. His current strength was several times stronger than before. This old man will obey the young master's order. The primordial dragon turtle said in a low voice. Very well. Let's go. Chu Fengmian's figure flashed. He didn't delay and directly flew in the direction of Wuxing Academy. The crown prince's wedding would be held in Wuxing Academy. Today was the day that Chu Fengmian and the crown prince would settle the score. Chapter 251. The Martial Victory Academy had been bustling with activity since early morning. Today was the wedding of the crown prince, Ling Tian, a core disciple of the Martial Victory Academy. He was marrying Han Yueli, a genius from the Cold Snow Pavilion, one of the four great sects. The crown prince was the best among the younger generation in the Martial Victory Academy. He was a true super genius and the first person in the Martial Victory Academy in the past 1,000 years. He was almost regarded as the next principal of the Martial Victory Academy. Han Yueli was the genius of the Cold Snow Pavilion and a peerless beauty. All the men in the Martial Victory Academy were chasing after her. The wedding this time was not only the wedding of two of the disciples, but also the alliance between the Martial Victory Academy and the Cold Snow Pavilion. The meaning behind this was extremely thought-provoking. Although Han Yueli was not the next pavilion master of the Cold Snow Pavilion, she was still the top genius of the Cold Snow Pavilion. Her marriage showed the determination of the Cold Snow Pavilion. Early in the morning, all the famous people in the Martial Victory Academy rushed over to attend the Crown Prince's wedding. Countless guests almost filled the entire Martial Victory Academy. Our Martial Victory Academy hasn't been so lively for a long time. Two old men were sitting high up in the spectator stands. These two old men were sitting at the highest point of the spectator stands. Their statuses were incomparably high. Even the principal of the Martial Victory Academy was sitting between them. Obviously, they were of the same status. It's a pity that old man Chu Heng won't be able to see this. One of the old men said in a low voice. These two old men were the two saints who had investigated Chu Heng's death in the sea region. Now, including the principal of the Martial Victory Academy, there were already 3 saints from the Martial Victory Academy. Look, the Martial Victory Academy actually sent 3 saints for this wedding. The Crown Prince really has a lot of face. Some of the onlookers below also recognized the 3 people sitting on the platform and began to talk among themselves. Saints? Are they the legendary saints who have stepped into the divine power realm? That's right. These 3 people are the legendary saints. The one sitting in the middle is the current dean of the Martial Victory Academy, Lei Che. He was once the #1 genius of the previous Martial Victory Academy and is now a terrifying expert who has stepped into the saint realm. He's the dean of Wuxing Academy? Many people in the vicinity could not help but look over when they heard the man's words. They wanted to see what kind of person the headmaster of Wusheng Academy was. Then who are the two people beside him? How can he be on equal footing with the dean of the Martial Victory Academy? Another person asked. The two old men beside him seemed to have a status that was not lower than the dean of Wusheng Academy. How could there be people with such status in Wusheng Academy? You don't even know them? Have you heard of the 4 great clans of Wusheng Academy? Of course I've heard of them. The Lu, Qing, Chu, and Tang clans are all very famous in Wusheng country. What's wrong? Could these two be? That's right. These two are the Qing clan's patriarch, Qing Xiantian, and the Tang clan's patriarch, Tang Jianxing. The patriarchs of the Qing and Tang clans are both saints and patriarchs of the 2 great clans. Of course, they're on equal footing with the dean of Wusheng Academy. The man was obviously very knowledgeable. Seeing that there were so many people around him, he spoke proudly. The dean of Wusheng Academy, the Qing clan's patriarchs, and the Tang clan's patriarchs are all here in person. Especially since it's said that Dean Lei Che is going to retire. It'll be even more difficult to see him in the future. But today all of them are here. The Crown Prince's status is enough to invite the 3 of them? Although the Crown Prince is known as the #1 genius of Wusheng country, he's only a core disciple. He can't do this, right? Someone asked in surprise. A core disciple? The Crown Prince is basically set to be the next dean of Wusheng Academy. This wedding is no different from the dean of Wusheng Academy's wedding. Moreover, the person the Crown Prince is marrying is Han Yueli from the Cold Snow Pavilion. Once they get married, it's almost a marriage alliance between Wusheng Academy and the Cold Snow Pavilion. Of course, they'll treat it with great importance and send out all their experts. Han Yueli. I haven't even seen her face until now, but she's going to marry someone else. Even the fairy of the Cold Snow Pavilion will get married one day. An admirer of Han Yueli couldn't help but speak. His tone was obviously very dejected. Han Yueli is noble and arrogant, but in Wusheng Academy, only the Crown Prince is worthy of her. There's no other choice. Moreover, it's said that the Cold Snow Pavilion took the initiative to ask the Crown Prince to marry her. Oh? Isn't there another person called Chu Fengmian in Wusheng Academy? It's said that he broke the Crown Prince's record. He's not bad, right? Chu Fengmian? That arrogant guy caused a ruckus in Wusheng Academy 3 months ago and was killed by a saint. Moreover, even if he's not dead, he's no match for the Crown Prince. Let me tell you a secret. The Crown Prince is the one who obtained the Saint Transformation Herb. He's only 1 step away from becoming a saint. No matter how talented Chu Fengmian is, how can he compete with the Crown Prince? He's just an ant. That person said coldly. Obviously, he held the Crown Prince in high regard and disdained Chu Fengmian. Then why are the ancestors of the Qing family and Tang family the only ones from the 4 great families here? Where are the Lu family and family Chu? Another person asked. Why are you asking so many questions? These saints have always been cultivating in seclusion. Perhaps they can't come because they have something to do. The ancestors of the 4 great families haven't gathered for a long time. That person snorted coldly and left. He didn't want to answer. Such conversations could be heard everywhere in Wusheng Academy. It was extremely lively, but after a while everyone stopped talking. The reason for that was because countless snowflakes were suddenly falling from the sky. Following that, a snowy ice bridge condensed in the sky. Countless white figures walked down from the frigid snow ice bridge. All of them were masked white-clothed women. It's the ice bridge of the freezing snow pavilion. The people from the freezing snow pavilion are here. Seeing the flying snow ice bridge appear, countless people's voices came to an abrupt halt. All of their gazes were fixed on the group of people from the freezing snow pavilion. Walking at the very front was a middle-aged woman. Although she was already middle-aged, her face was still extremely pretty. However, her face was extremely cold. It was so cold that people were not used to it. She's the pavilion master of the freezing snow pavilion, Han Xianbing. Her heart is as cold as ice. Just a glance at her is enough to make people feel a bone-piercing cold. Saint Xianbing lives up to her reputation. Chapter 252. Rumor has it that the pavilion master of the Han Snow Pavilion, Han Xianbing, destroyed all her emotions in order to become a saint. Her heart is cold. Sure enough, the Han Snow Pavilion is not at a disadvantage. The pavilion master of the Han Snow Pavilion is here to host the wedding. Since the dean of the Wuxing Academy was here, the Han Snow Pavilion would not be impolite. Hence, the pavilion master of the Han Snow Pavilion, Han Xianbing, came here personally. Dean Lei, Clan Master Qing, Clan Master Tang, long time no see. Han Xianbing stepped on the ice bridge and landed on the spectator's stand. He sat on the other side of the stand and spoke to the three people who were the tallest on the spectator's stand. Although it was a greeting, Han Xianbing's voice was extremely cold and calm, as if he was talking to a stranger. However, the three of them were not surprised at all. They all greeted Han Xianbing. It was a return of respect. The people who followed Han Xianbing down the ice bridge were the people from the first layer of the Han Snow Pavilion. The supreme elder of the Han Snow Pavilion and countless disciples came out. Among the crowd, the most eye-catching person was Han Yueli, who was dressed in red and had a veil on her head. She walked down the bridge with the help of others. Some experts who had reached the wind-controlling realm could see that Han Yueli's body was sealed by a seal, which sealed her spiritual energy. That was why she walked down the bridge with the help of others. Junior sister Han, don't struggle anymore. What's wrong with marrying the crown prince? You will become the dean of the Wuxing Academy in the future. Many people want to marry you. Beside Han Yueli, a disciple of the Han Snow Pavilion tried to persuade her. However, he saw that Han Yueli did not say anything. She only snorted coldly with a cold face. He helped Han Yueli walk down the bridge. The disciples of the Han Snow Pavilion all took their seat. Do you still want to resist in this world? Ji Lingtian, who was standing below, greeted the crowd and sneered coldly. It was meaningless to resist today's wedding. The wedding was set to be held at noon. There were still 4 hours left, and countless warriors came with congratulatory gifts. Countless factions of the Wuxing nation sent over congratulatory gifts one after another. The few disciples of the Wuxing Academy who were in charge of announcing the news did not rest at all. Candle Flame Sect Master Yen Mang has arrived. With this announcement, countless people turned their gazes over. They saw a red-haired old man walking in the front with large strides. The red-haired elder had an arrogant look on his face. He was Yen Mang, the leader of the Candle Flame Sect. He was also a saint from the victorious martial nation. Behind him were a dozen disciples from the Candle Flame Sect. Brother Yen is here. The dean of Martial Victory Academy, Lei Che, Qing Xiantian, and Tang Jianxing all stood up to welcome them. When other cultivators came to congratulate them, the three of them merely nodded their heads. However, when Yen Mang, who was also a saint, came, they naturally had to stand up and welcome him. Please take a seat. How can I not attend such a grand wedding? Yen Mang laughed loudly and said to the Candle Flame Sect disciples behind him. Open it. Yes. Countless Candle Flame Sect's disciples below said in unison as they opened a huge wooden box. Within the wooden box, there was an incomparably huge blazing coral. 1,000-year flaming coral. It's a 1,000-year flaming coral. The Candle Flame Sect is so generous. They actually sent such a valuable gift. 1,000-year flaming coral is an earth-rank spiritual herb. For some fire-based martial artists, it's comparable to a heaven-rank spiritual herb. This flaming coral grows in lava. It's easier said than done to obtain it. It's priceless. Some of the onlookers couldn't help but exclaim. They knew that the Candle Flame Sect's gift wouldn't be bad, but they didn't expect it to be so valuable. This is the congratulatory gift I have sent. Thank you for your gift, sect leader Yen. When Ji Lingtian saw the 1,000-year flaming coral, a trace of greed flashed across his eyes. He quickly thanked Yen Mang. Lingtian, you don't have to be so courteous. When you inherit the position of the dean, you will be on equal footing with me. Yen Mang glanced at Ji Lingtian and said, Don't mention it. I haven't made a breakthrough yet, so I can't be considered the dean of the Martial Victory Academy. Ji Lingtian smiled and didn't refute. In his opinion, the position of the dean of the Martial Victory Academy was already set in stone. As long as he completely refined the medicinal efficacy of the Saint Transformation Herb, he would be able to break through the divine power realm and become a saint. At that time, he would naturally become the new dean of the Martial Victory Academy. The two of them chatted for a while and then left. Mysterious Een Body. After the wedding today, it'll be the time for me to make a breakthrough. Ji Lingtian looked in the direction of Han Yueli with greed in his eyes. It was as if he was looking at a treasure that could help him make a breakthrough. The Island Lord of the Three Immortal Island has arrived. A huge bronze door condensed in the sky. It was the celestial door of the Three Immortal Island. Fang Xiandao walked out of the door and looked at the crowd before landing. Although Fang Xiandao hadn't stepped into the saint realm, the few saints present all stood up and greeted him respectfully. Fang Xiandao was still in the half-saint realm, but with the celestial door, he could already control the power of space. He was not much different from a true saint. Naturally, he was valued by the other saints and everyone addressed him as an equal. The congratulatory gift from the Three Immortal Island was a deep-sea red ginseng. Although it wasn't as precious as the 1,000-year blazing coral, it could nourish one's vitality and was said to have the effect of regrowing flesh and bones. As long as one wasn't dead, the divine sea red ginseng could be used to save one. It was also an extremely precious spiritual herb. Thank you, Island Master Fang. Ji Lingtian replied politely. It's fine. Compared to Yen Mang, Fang Xiandao just waved his hand and sat down without saying anything else. After a while, a gust of wind swept over. This gust of wind wasn't hostile. Everyone knew that the Aeolus sect, the last of the four great sects, had also come. Everyone, it's been a long time. It's so lively today. A hearty middle-aged man descended from the gust of wind. Although he didn't look impressive, he was still a saint. He was the sect leader of the Aeolus sect, Feng Hua. The sect leaders of the four great sects are all here. With the addition of Wuxing Academy, I'm afraid all the experts in Wuxing Nation are here. Some people were discussing. It was a feast for the eyes to be able to see so many experts. No, there's still one force that hasn't come. A martial artist said in a deep voice. Wuxing Nation wasn't just composed of Wuxing Academy and the four great sects. It was also a force that had risen. The black market naturally won't be absent from the Crown Prince's wedding. Suddenly, a loud laugh was heard. A few black-clothed people suddenly descended from the sky. As for where they had come from, no one noticed them for a moment. These people are from the black market. The black market people are here too. Chapter 253. The black market was no longer as mysterious as it used to be in Wuxing Academy. The news that a new saint was born in the black market and that the black market was unified had spread. However, they had only heard rumors about the saint. Now that they heard that the black market was here, they couldn't help but look over to see who the black market's saint was. It's our honor to have the saint here. Dean Lei Che stood up and said with a smile when he saw the group of people from the black market. Please take a seat. The black market was more powerful than any of the four sections. Now that the black market was united, it was the sixth most powerful force in Wuxing country. Naturally, no one dared to look down on it. Even Wuxing Academy had to acknowledge the black market's status. The four sects, the black market, and the Wuxing country had all arrived. There were only about 10 minutes left until noon. A huge altar had already been set up on the spectators' stand. The wedding was extremely grand. They would sacrifice the heavens and earth and worship the countless ancestors of Wuxing Academy. It's almost time. Lingtian, go. Lei Che glanced at the crowd and said to Ji Lingtian, who was standing beside him. Yes. Ji Lingtian nodded, then descended from the high platform and stood on the altar. On the other side, Han Yueli had been standing on the high platform the entire time, not moving at all. What's going on? Why didn't Han Yueli come down? The surrounding crowd began to discuss in surprise. Yueli, you'd better go down. Think about your master. If you don't go down, your master's life will be in danger. Among the group of people from the cold snow pavilion, the pavilion master, Han Xianbing, looked at the unmoved Han Yueli and said coldly, You don't have a choice in this matter. Go down if you don't want your master to die. Han Yueli opened her mouth, but she had nothing to say. The current her did not have the qualifications to retort in front of this group of people. She was trembling with anger, but she could only go down from the spectators' stand. Chu Fengmian, Han Yueli muttered this name. Originally, she thought that this name could save her from the fire and water. However, she already knew what happened 3 months ago. Chu Fengmian was hunted down by a saint and died. Chu Fengmian? I didn't know you were related to him. Han Yueli murmured softly. Only Ji Lingtian, who was standing aside, heard it. He couldn't help but sneer when he heard the name. You're counting on that trash to save you? Too bad that trash didn't know what was good for him. He actually dared to provoke the Martial Victory Academy and was directly killed. Even if he didn't die, he wouldn't be able to make a difference. What can he do? It's your fortune to be married to me today. Don't worry, I won't treat you unfairly. The moment Ling Tian opened his mouth, he reached out to grab Han Yueli's hand. However, Han Yueli's body moved and she dodged his attack. You! Han Yueli dodged in front of everyone. Ji Lingtian frowned and was about to fly into a rage. Who was Ji Lingtian? He was the crown prince of Wuxing Academy and the next dean of Wuxing Academy. He was about to step into the divine power realm and become a saint. He was an extremely arrogant person. In his opinion, since he was willing to marry Han Yueli should obediently throw herself into his arms. However, she actually rejected him in front of so many people. He was about to fly into a rage. However, when he saw the crowd around him, he calmed down. In front of so many experts, today was definitely not a day for him to fly into a rage. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile, revealing a sinister look. He coldly looked at Han Yueli and coldly snorted. Let's see how you can escape after today's wedding. Let the wedding begin. Worship the heavens and earth. The dean of Wuxing Academy, Lei Che, said loudly. He was the one who presided over the wedding. The sacrificial altar was already prepared. Countless disciples of Wuxing Academy had already offered their offerings and were ready to worship the heavens. At this moment, a maniacal laugh suddenly sounded from the sky. How can I not be invited to such a lively day? This voice carried endless dragon might. It instantly turned into a dragon's roar. Some of the altars on the sacrificial altar were completely shattered. Boom! The sacrificial altar that had been set up for several days was suddenly destroyed. Who is it? Who dares to come and cause trouble at this time? Countless people below could not help but raise their heads and look at the figure in the sky. Their expressions were extremely strange. This wedding was between Wuxing Academy and Cold Snow Pavilion. The 4 major sects, the black market, and the experts of Wuxing Academy were all present. It could be said that all the experts of Wuxing country had gathered here. Who would dare to cause trouble at today's wedding? No one could imagine it. Chu Fengmian? On the sacrificial altar, Han Yueli suddenly lifted her veil. She raised her head and looked at the figure floating in the sky. Her eyes were filled with disbelief, and a drop of tear rolled down from the corner of her eye. You're still alive. Of course I'm still alive. I told you that I'll take you away. Chu Fengmian looked at Han Yueli and said with a smile. It seems that I've made it in time. Many people in the crowd below recognized Chu Fengmian in the sky. What's going on? Chu Fengmian is still alive? Didn't they say that he was dead? What's the relationship between Chu Fengmian and Han Yueli? Judging from his words, he's here to steal the bride? Isn't Han Yueli engaged to the crown prince long ago? What's going on? No wonder Han Yueli looks so reluctant. It turns out that she already has someone in her heart. Ji Lingtian, who was standing aside, saw Chu Fengmian in the sky and heard the discussion around him. His face turned livid, and his teeth were about to be crushed. Han Yueli didn't want to marry him on today's wedding. She gave him a lot of attitude and he endured it, but now Chu Fengmian appeared and talked to Han Yueli. Obviously, Chu Fengmian and Han Yueli had a relationship long ago. Even if Han Yueli didn't marry him, she was still his fiancée and had a marriage contract. The scene in front of him was as if he had been cuckolded. He felt so humiliated that he couldn't wait to kill Chu Fengmian. Chapter 254. Kill him. Kill him for me. The Crown Prince's expression was ferocious as he roared madly. He could no longer control his emotions, and his anger completely erupted. Hearing the Crown Prince's words, 3 figures immediately flew out from the viewing platform. These 3 figures stepped on the air and directly charged towards Chu Fengmian with an attack. It's young Master Di, Rong Tai, and Qing Yun, the 3 capable men of the Saint Hall. The 3 of them are the core disciples of Wuxing Academy and will soon be promoted to deputy headmaster. The crowd below quickly recognized the 3 people who attacked. The 3 core disciples of Wuxing Academy were all at the peak of the Imperial Wind Realm. Each of them could be considered as one of the top 10 geniuses of Wuxing country. The crowd quickly retreated, fearing that they would be implicated. 3 ants dare to make a move? Seeing the 3 people attack, Chu Fengmian raised his eyebrows. Although the 3 people's strength was comparable to young Master Yan'an and the others, they were like ants in front of Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's strength had reached the level of a true saint. It was as easy as waving his hand to deal with 3 little guys at the peak of the Imperial Wind Realm. Ants? Chu Fengmian, we've heard that you're arrogant. Now that we've seen it, you really live up to your reputation. Do you really think you're a saint? Do you think we're ants? The dark-skinned young Master Di was the first to speak. His tone was filled with endless anger. The 3 of them were super geniuses in Wuxing Academy and even Wuxing country. They were almost at the level of a half-saint. They surpassed countless warriors at the peak of the Imperial Wind Realm and were about to be promoted to deputy headmaster. If the 3 of them joined forces, even the Crown Prince might not be able to defeat them. They could even fight against a saint. But now Chu Fengmian called them ants. How could this not anger the proud and arrogant people? I said you're ants. Do you still dare to resist? Chu Fengmian sneered, and a disdainful look flashed across his eyes. Chu Fengmian flicked his finger, and suddenly a wave of spiritual energy condensed. This wave of spiritual energy immediately turned into a huge palm print and slapped toward the 3 people. This palm print was 100 zhang in size, and it condensed in the air in an instant. What terrifying power! Is this Chu Fengmian's power? 3 months ago, he wreaked havoc in the Martial Victory Academy and killed countless elders and grand elders of the Discipline Hall and Starry Hall. Even the Hall Master was killed by him. One of the vice principals fell as well. I thought the rumor was false, but it turns out to be true. This is no longer the power that can be achieved by the wind-controlling realm. His realm is only the first level of the wind-controlling realm. How can he be so powerful? Countless people exclaimed. The moment the palm print appeared, everyone felt as if doomsday had arrived. They all trembled under the palm print. They simply didn't dare to resist the power of this palm. Boom! As the palm fell, the 3 figures fell straight to the ground. Their strength was not on the same level as the palm, and they were instantly destroyed. With one palm strike, the three figures fell to the ground and shattered. They were killed instantly. As Chu Fengmian moved his hand, countless amounts of blood qi were absorbed by him and integrated into the slaughter sword technique. He killed 3 martial artists at the peak of the wind-controlling realm in one move. Everyone present inhaled a breath of cool air. The place was completely silent, and no one dared to open their mouths again. This kind of strength had intimidated everyone present with a single move. Many people who had doubted Chu Fengmian's strength and were eager to challenge him were now trembling in fear. This kind of power had surpassed ordinary martial artists. It was a power that only a saint could have. A saint. Chu Fengmian, a martial artist who was less than 20 years old, had become a saint. No one would have believed it if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. Ji Lingtian was in the stands. When he saw Chu Fengmian's move, his eyes showed a bit of panic. He didn't expect Chu Fengmian's strength to be so terrifying. Ji Lingtian, do you dare to fight with me? Chu Fengmian looked at Ji Lingtian and said coldly. His words were as sharp as a knife. If you think you're qualified to marry Han Yueli, you can fight with me. I don't care if you die. If you don't dare and are willing to be a coward, I can spare your life if you kowtow 3 times. What do you think? Chu Fengmian's words had forced Ji Lingtian into a dead end. Chu Fengmian, today is Lingtian's wedding day. It's not a place for you to mess around. Lei Che, the dean of Wu Xing Academy, suddenly said while looking at Chu Fengmian. Leave quickly. Today's matter can be considered over. If you have any grudges with Lingtian, why don't you wait until tomorrow? I promise you that I'll give you a chance to fight with Lingtian. Otherwise, there are so many powerhouses here today. No matter how strong you are, what can you do? Today you'll die here. Old man, who do you think you are? How dare you threaten me? Hearing Lei Che's words, Chu Fengmian suddenly laughed. You're just the dean of Wu Xing Academy. Who do you think you are? Threatening me? You're worse than a dog in front of me. If you disassociate yourselves from today's matter, I can let your Wu Xing Academy go. However, if you participate in today's matter, there's no need for Wu Xing Academy to exist today. Chu Fengmian's words were filled with killing intent. His words caused the crowd to boil over. Lei Che's face was flushed red with anger. He had actually been called worse than a dog in front of so many people. Who was Lei Che? He was the dean of Wu Xing Academy and the most powerful person in Wu Xing Nation. He was an existence that everyone respected. Now that he was being pointed at and scolded by a junior, if he retreated today, he would really lose all face. Chu Fengmian didn't have a good impression of the higher-ups of Wu Xing Academy. When the Crown Prince had attacked and killed him, these higher-ups hadn't protected him. When the family Chu's people came to deal with Chu Fengmian, the higher-ups of Wu Xing Academy hadn't helped him either. If Wu Xing Academy was sensible and didn't participate today, Chu Fengmian wouldn't deal with them. However, if they did, Chu Fengmian wouldn't mind destroying Wu Xing Nation. Good. 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 Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Lei Che roared furiously without hesitation. Chapter 255. The moment Lei Che spoke, the spiritual energy in his body burst out. Endless lightning formed in his palm and turned into a lightning spear. He threw it at Chu Fengmian. What Lei Che cultivated was a type of thunder spirit cultivation method, which was extremely special. As the Dean of Martial Victory Academy, he was at the 2nd level of the Divine Power Realm. His move resounded with the sound of thunder. As the spear flew over, the sound of thunder was enough to make countless warriors tremble in fear. Bang! However, the moment the lightning spear flew over, it was suddenly stopped midway. A white-haired man suddenly appeared, and the lightning spear was instantly broken by him. Who is it? Someone else has appeared. Is it Chu Fengmian's helper? Seeing the white-haired man, countless people were going crazy. To be able to block Lei Che's move, the white-haired man was obviously a saint. Since when were saints so worthless? Chu Fengmian was a saint who was not even 20 years old, and now there was an unfamiliar saint. The number of saints in victorious martial country could be counted on one's fingers, but now 2 unfamiliar ones had suddenly appeared. Especially the white-haired man. They did not know where he came from. However, to be able to block Lei Che's spear so easily, it was obvious that his strength was extremely terrifying. Who are you? Do you want to go against Martial Victory Academy? This kid is an enemy of Martial Victory Academy. Please leave. Seeing the white-haired man, Lei Che's expression changed. One Chu Fengmian was already troublesome enough. Now there was another one. 2 saints were enough to turn the world upside down. The white-haired man was the ancient dragon turtle who had followed Chu Fengmian all the way here. The ancient dragon turtle did not want to make a move. It was only when he saw Lei Che make a move that he took action. Although I don't know where you came from, the strength of Martial Victory Academy is not something you can contend with. If you are willing to leave, we are willing to treat you as an important guest of Martial Victory Academy. Lei Che looked at the ancient dragon turtle and said. He thought that the ancient dragon turtle was a helper that Chu Fengmian had found and bribed with some benefit. Therefore, he wanted to persuade and threaten the ancient dragon turtle to give up. However, this sort of persuasion and threat was completely meaningless to the ancient era's dragon tortoise. I am just an old servant of the young master, the ancient dragon turtle said in a deep voice. This sentence immediately caused countless waves. The old servant, a terrifying saint, had actually referred to himself as a slave. This simply made everyone present go crazy. Ordinary saints would have to pay an exorbitant price to hire them, let alone becoming a slave. Once one became a saint, they would no longer be human. They would be a true saint. How could there be such a crazy move in the world to make a saint a servant? Down below, Ji Lingtian was so jealous that he was about to go mad. As the #1 genius of the victorious martial nation, he should have been surrounded by halos and admired by everyone. However, Chu Fengmian's appearance had shattered everything. He had painstakingly obtained the saint transformation herb, but now Chu Fengmian was the first to step into the saint stage. Even if Chu Fengmian had not reached the saint stage, he had the power of a saint and was still a saint. Saint was not the name of the realm, but the power. As long as there was power, even if there was no realm, one would still be a saint. Now, there was another saint who was willing to be Chu Fengmian's servant. This simply made Ji Lingtian go crazy with jealousy. He began to feel that all his good luck was nothing in front of Chu Fengmian. Since Chu Fengmian's appearance, everything went wrong for him. Now that his wedding was ruined by Chu Fengmian, he was also disgraced in front of everyone. Luaha, play with this old guy for a while. Chu Fengmian glanced at the ancient dragon turtle and said indifferently. He did have some things to deal with now. Yes, young master. The ancient dragon turtle heard Chu Fengmian's words and sneered. He immediately activated all the power in his body and attacked Lei Che. Without the trouble of Lei Che, Chu Fengmian could continue. Today was the day he would settle the score with Ji Lingtian. You want to run? The moment Chu Fengmian landed on the platform, Ji Lingtian took a few steps back. With a turn of his body, Ling Tian turned into a streak of light and flew into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he was 10 miles away. He ran away. The Crown Prince actually ran away? This Chu Fengmian is really too terrifying. Even the Crown Prince was forced to flee in defeat. I'm afraid that after today, the #1 genius of Wuxing Academy will really change. Genius? The word genius is no longer suitable to describe Chu Fengmian. He is a true expert, a monstrous figure. The word genius is no longer suitable for him. Countless people's eyes were filled with excitement. Chu Fengmian's arrogance and domineering was what they all yearned for. Ji Lingtian was arrogant and had bullied many people. Now that they saw Ji Lingtian running away, many people were cheering. Damn it! Damn it! That piece of trash, How dare he mock me? Hearing the countless discussions below, Ji Lingtian thought crazily. When I come back, when I refine the power of the saint transformation herb and become a saint, these people will die one by one. And Chu Fengmian, he will also die. He will never imagine how terrifying I will be when I become a saint. I have countless fortuitous encounters, and once I become a saint, all of them will explode. As Ji Lingtian thought to himself, he turned his head and looked at Chu Fengmian with eyes full of hatred. If hatred could kill, Chu Fengmian would have been killed 10,000 times by Ji Lingtian. Now that he was driving the light with all his strength, he could travel 10 miles in a breath. At this speed, he would be able to escape very quickly. What's going on? Does Chu Fengmian want to let the crown prince go? Letting a tiger return to the mountain, raising a tiger will only invite calamity. This is a great taboo. While countless people were still guessing, Chu Fengmian slowly moved. Chu Fengmian raised his hand and grabbed at the air. Chapter 256. This scene, he was like an ant being toyed with by an expert. Now, Chu Fengmian was the real expert. Even the crown prince, Ji Lingtian, couldn't escape from Chu Fengmian's hands. This was a real genius, a real expert. Compared to Chu Fengmian, Ji Lingtian was nothing. Now, he was being trampled under Chu Fengmian's feet. Ah! Caught by the palm, Ji Lingtian roared crazily. His spiritual energy was pushed to the limit, and countless martial arts techniques were launched. All of these martial skills were actually above the earth grade. For Ling Tian to have such achievements, he must have had countless fortuitous encounters in his life. If he hadn't met Chu Fengmian, he might have left victorious martial country in the future and gone to the more prosperous 9 regions to continue writing a legend. But now, he met Chu Fengmian, the nemesis of his life. All his adventures were meaningless in front of Chu Fengmian. From the moment he attacked Chu Fengmian during the entrance examination, he was destined to be trampled under Chu Fengmian's feet today. Get over here! Chu Fengmian shouted coldly. The spiritual energy giant hand grabbed Ji Lingtian and pulled him over. No matter how hard Ji Lingtian struggled, it was useless. He was pulled back to the stand by Chu Fengmian. Ji Lingtian escaped 100 miles away. In everyone's opinion, he should have escaped by now. But now, he was caught by Chu Fengmian. Ji Lingtian was worshipped by all the young warriors in victorious martial country. Now, he was like an ant in Chu Fengmian's hands. Kneel! Chu Fengmian shouted angrily at Ji Lingtian. Impossible! Ji Lingtian roared angrily. He was also a peerless genius. How could he kneel down now? But before his voice died away, a strong pressure shrouded Ji Lingtian's body. This was the real dragon's power. Chu Fengmian's bloodline was now 3 times stronger than before. The dragon's power was extremely terrifying. The moment the dragon's power fell, Ji Lingtian's face was completely frozen. He would rather die than submit, but his body couldn't take it anymore. No. I'm a genius. I'm going to be the next dean. I can't kneel. Ling Tian's rage actually caused the spiritual energy in his body to rise steadily. As a peerless genius, he actually burst out with all of his trump cards at such a critical moment. He crazily increased his strength and began to resist Chu Fengmian's dragon's power, as if he was going to break free. You can't trap me. I'm a genius. I'm a person who inherited heaven and earth. I have countless opportunities. Opportunities? You can't trap me. For a moment, Lingtian's confidence with Chu Fengmian's power. But it was only a cold sneer. Genius? You dare to call yourself a genius? Just a frog at the bottom of a well. In front of a true genius, you're nothing. Chu Fengmian sneered. All of a sudden, the 100 drops of primordial war dragon's blood essence in his body condensed into a diagram, causing Chu Fengmian's dragon power to become 10 times stronger. Ji Lingtian's power, which was still slightly condensing, collapsed in front of Chu Fengmian's 10 times stronger dragon's power. Ji Lingtian was indeed one of the top geniuses in Wuxing country, but in the vast 9 regions, he was nothing. Wuxing country could only be considered a small country in the 9 regions. It was located at the border and was extremely barren. Although Ji Lingtian's talent was extremely high, he could only be considered a small genius in places like the 7 great sections. He was still far from being a true peerless genius. According to Chu Fengmian's knowledge, the true monstrous geniuses of the 7 great sects were saints at the age of 15 and life and death realm at the age of 20. They were truly terrifying geniuses. Chu Fengmian didn't dare to call himself a peerless genius, so what qualifications did Ji Lingtian have? But even compared to those peerless geniuses, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid at all. Those peerless geniuses had cultivated since they were young and had countless resources. Chu Fengmian, on the other hand, had only been reborn half a year ago. Now that he had such strength and the battle dragon art, as long as he was given a chance, it was possible for him to soar into the sky. Ji Lingtian's kneeling had simply destroyed his self-confidence. His whole person had sunk into madness. His hair was disheveled and fluttering madly. He no longer looked like a peerless genius. Making Ji Lingtian kneel on the ground was much more difficult than killing him. It was easy to kill, but difficult to subdue. Especially for peerless geniuses like Ji Lingtian, who had extremely high self-esteem. If he were to kneel, he would definitely use up all his strength. Even so, he still couldn't resist. It was simply destroying his self-confidence. If a genius didn't even have self-confidence, then what was the point of cultivating martial arts? He would directly become a cripple. What kind of level has Chu Fengmian's strength reached? Is he really a saint? How can a first level of the Imperial Wind Realm be so terrifying? Could it be that he's hiding his cultivation? Surely, Chu Fengmian has been hiding his cultivation all this time. That's why he's so terrifying. It seems that this is far from Chu Fengmian's full strength. It's too easy to deal with the Crown Prince. I suspect that the current Chu Fengmian is already strong enough to contend with the Qing family's ancestor and the Tang family's ancestor. He might even be on par with the sect masters of the 4 major sections. It can't be that terrifying, right? He's not even 20 years old. It's possible. Otherwise, why would Chu Fengmian dare to come here so brazenly to disrupt the situation? Words were exchanged continuously. Even the sect masters of the 4 major sects were conversing with each other through their spiritual senses. Chu Fengmian's rise was too sudden. None of them had expected it. What's the origin of this kid? How can he be so terrifying? No matter what his origin is, the emergence of such a genius is not a good thing for us. If he continues to develop, who in the victorious martial country can contend with him? Find a chance to kill him. Kill him before he's completely invincible. Although the sect masters of the 4 major sects were conversing through their spiritual senses, they were still able to hide from Chu Fengmian's ears. Chu Fengmian could hear everything clearly. Among the 4 of them, Han Xianbing of the Cold Snow Pavilion, Yan Mang of the Candle Flame sect, and Fang Xiandao of the 3 Immortal Island had all voiced their desire to kill Chu Fengmian. Only the sect master of the Aeolus sect, Feng Hua, remained silent. It seems that only the Aeolus sect can survive among the 4 major sections. As for the others, they will all be destroyed. Chapter 257. Chu Fengmian and the 4 sects didn't have much enmity between each other, but they wanted to kill Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian was a man who drew a clear line between good and evil. Anyone who wanted to kill him was his enemy. Even if it was the 4 sects, Chu Fengmian would destroy them. Ji Lingtian, you're indeed blessed with countless opportunities. You're actually able to resist my dragon power for a short period of time. You're quite unique. Chu Fengmian looked at Ji Lingtian, who was kneeling in front of him, and sneered. Today, I will take away all the opportunities that you have and leave you with nothing. The moment he spoke, Chu Fengmian moved his hand and grabbed at Ji Lingtian. Ji Lingtian felt that all of his opportunities were now in Chu Fengmian's hands, as if they were about to be sucked out. My fortuitous encounter. Dubhe power. Invincible Holy King. Come out. I won't die. I won't lose. Ji Lingtian let out a loud roar as two powerful spiritual forces erupted from his body. The two spiritual energies formed a strange barrier in front of him. It was as if they were trying to protect the entire Ji Lingtian. Under these two energies, they could vaguely resist Chu Fengmian's dragon's might. Dubhe art of Dubhe Hall and Holy King immortality technique of Holy King sect? Ji Lingtian has learned all of the cultivation techniques of these two sects? Chu Fengmian's eyes widened in shock when he saw the two spiritual energies. These two cultivation techniques belonged to the Divine Pivot Hall and the Sage Monarch sect. This Ji Lingtian really had countless fortuitous encounters. He actually managed to learn these two cultivation methods. These two cultivation methods are indeed extremely powerful. But unfortunately, in front of the Dragon War art, the cultivation methods of these 7 great sects are unable to contend against it. You still want to struggle? Kneel. Seeing that Ji Lingtian wanted to stand up, Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold. Suddenly, the power of the Battle Dragon spell was pushed to the extreme. The cultivation methods of the 7 great sects were also far from comparable to the Battle Dragon art. Chu Fengmian's foot suddenly stomped on Ji Lingtian's head, crushing countless bones and causing his head to fall to the ground. I'll kill you. Being stepped on by someone else was a great humiliation. It was even more painful than killing Ji Lingtian. A peerless genius like him, who was once an existence revered by everyone, was being trampled under someone's foot in front of everyone today. He was already going crazy. On Ji Lingtian's body, the spiritual energy in his body suddenly expanded violently. A total of 35 spiritual veins appeared on his body and expanded at a crazy rate. His spiritual energy was in complete chaos. At this moment of despair, Ji Lingtian actually chose to self-detonate. Self-destruct? Do you think I'll allow it? Looking at the crazy spiritual energy in Ji Lingtian's body, Chu Fengmian sneered. He calmed his mind and placed a restriction on Ji Lingtian. The restriction immediately sealed all the spiritual energy in Ji Lingtian's body, making it impossible for him to self-destruct even if he wanted to. Unless he was a saint, it was impossible for him to self-destruct in Chu Fengmian's hands. Didn't you want to kill me? Chu Fengmian snorted. Just as he lifted his foot, he slammed it down again and smashed Ji Lingtian's face to the ground. The stone tiles on the ground were crushed. I'll extract all the fortuitous encounters you have and condense them into a golden core. Looking at Ji Lingtian, Chu Fengmian snorted. Ji Lingtian's countless fortuitous encounters might not be of much use to Chu Fengmian, but they were extremely precious. If he gave them to Han Yueli, it would be enough to make Han Yueli almost invincible among those below the Saint realm. Without hesitation, Chu Fengmian moved his palm and grabbed at Ji Lingtian. Countless spiritual energies were extracted from Ji Lingtian's body by Chu Fengmian. These spiritual energies were Ji Lingtian's countless fortuitous encounters, all of which were forcibly taken away by Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, it's easy to break if you're too hard. You've defeated the Crown Prince today, so why bother taking away his opportunities? You're now a Saint Realm expert, so why bother bickering with a junior? Let's end the feud between you two today. A cold voice suddenly rang out. A white figure landed on the platform. It was the pavilion master of the Cold Snow Pavilion, Han Xianbing. Pavilion Master Han Yueli saw Han Xianbing and wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Chu Fengmian. End the feud here? It's not that easy to end the feud between us. Only by killing him today can I end it all. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold. He looked at Han Xianbing with no good feelings. Han Xianbing was the one who forced Han Yueli to marry Ji Lingtian. In the conversation just now, she was also the one who suggested to kill Chu Fengmian. I only know that a life for a life. Since Ji Lingtian wants to kill me, then I'll kill him today. Pavilion Master Han, do you want to get involved in the matter between us? Chu Fengmian said coldly. There was no trace of politeness in his words. Humph. Hearing Chu Fengmian's rude words, Han Xuanbing's face turned cold. She was the sect master of the 4 great sects, an existence that everyone respected. Even the dean of the Wuxing Academy would not speak to her like this. The Crown Prince has married a disciple of the Cold Snow Pavilion, so he's half a member of the Cold Snow Pavilion. Of course, I have to intervene. Chu Fengmian, you should be clear about this. Be lenient whenever possible? I only heard that if you let the tiger go back to the mountain, it will be a big trouble. If I don't kill him today, will I wait for him to kill me when he has the chance? Hearing Han Xuanbing's words, Chu Fengmian said with a mocking smile. Do you think the wedding can go on today? The engagement between the Crown Prince and Yueli was set by me. It can't be changed. Even if you make a scene today, it's meaningless. Han Xianbing shook her head and said. You've become a saint. It's meaningless to be sentimental. If you're not satisfied, you can choose another disciple of the Cold Snow Pavilion. As for Yueli, she must marry the Crown Prince today. Disciples of the Cold Snow Pavilion can't go back on their engagement. You'd better give up. Well, choose another disciple. It seems that you've gone mad in order to become a saint. Without sentimentality, you're no different from a beast. Hearing Han Xuanbing's words, Chu Fengmian scolded her rudely. Chapter 258. How dare you? Han Xianbing suddenly roared. Han Yueli has been engaged to the Crown Prince for a long time. The whole Wuxing country knows about the wedding today. No matter how powerful you are, do you want to fight against the Han Snow Pavilion alone? Han Xianbing said confidently. She was sure that Chu Fengmian would retreat. After all, no matter how powerful a person was, how could he fight against a big force? The Han Snow Pavilion was one of the 4 sects in the Wuxing country. They had been accumulating for thousands of years. How could a person fight against them alone? In Han Xuanbing's opinion, Chu Fengmian would definitely retreat because of a woman. Unfortunately, Han Xianbing didn't know Chu Fengmian's character at all. Chu Fengmian dared to fight against the 7 sects for Han Yueli, let alone the Han Snow Pavilion. So what if I fight against the Han Snow Pavilion? Do you think you can fight against me today? Let's see if I can take Yueli away today. Chu Fengmian sneered and said arrogantly. Han Xuanbing's strength was only at the peak of LV1 of the Divine Power Realm. Chu Fengmian didn't take her seriously. He was strong enough to defeat her now. Junior, how dare you be so arrogant when you just have the strength of a saint? You're indeed invincible and respected outside. But you're not qualified to fight against the Han Snow Pavilion. Han Xianbing sneered and said disdainfully. Defeating Crown Prince Ji Lingtian so easily might seem like a shocking thing to others, but to a saint like her, Ji Lingtian was just an ant that could be defeated with a wave of her hand. She could do more perfectly what Chu Fengmian could do. She didn't take Chu Fengmian's strength seriously at all. Junior, do you really think you're qualified to fight against the Han Snow Pavilion because I've shown you some respect? I'll teach you a lesson today. Get out. Han Xianbing waved his hand and a huge amount of spiritual energy rushed towards Chu Fengmian. This spiritual energy wanted to subdue Chu Fengmian in one move. The spiritual energy that filled the sky suddenly turned into a huge ice hand and pressed towards Chu Fengmian. In order to step into the divine force realm, Han Xianbing had annihilated his emotions. However, his martial path had reached an even higher level. He had no distractions. Although her cultivation base was only at the peak of the 1st level of the divine force realm, the prowess of her attacks wasn't any weaker than someone at the 2nd level of the divine force realm. Given mysterious cold ice's strength, even a saint would have to be wary of such a palm strike. The slightest carelessness could cause one to be suppressed by the palm strike. However, Chu Fengmian sneered the moment he struck out. Suddenly, the scarlet flame sword appeared in his hand. With a sudden slash of the sword light, the profound ice giant hand was instantly cut in half. What? The other three sect masters, Yen Mang, Fang Xiandao, and Feng Hua, were all shocked. Even Cheng Xiantian and Tang Xingjian couldn't help but stand up from the stands. Many pairs of eyes looked at the battle in the air in disbelief. Mysterious cold ice's attack was actually so easily neutralized by Chu Fengmian? What kind of person was Han Xianbing? She was the pavilion master of the cold snow pavilion. Everyone knew her strength. There was no doubt about it. In order to become a saint, Han Xianbing had even annihilated her emotions. As a result, she had never shown any mercy when she attacked. She attacked with her full strength. In other words, Han Xuanbing's full-strength attack was actually blocked by Chu Fengmian so easily. This was simply beyond their expectations. They originally thought that Chu Fengmian's strength should be between a saint and a half-saint, surpassing the crown prince. However, in the end, he shouldn't be a match for a saint. After all, Chu Fengmian hadn't stepped into the divine force realm yet. His strength was only close to that of a saint. However, after this battle, everyone was sure that Chu Fengmian must have reached the saint's strength. To be able to resist Han Xianbing, Chu Fengmian's strength was definitely that of a true saint. It was simply unheard of to possess the strength of a saint at the first level of the Imperial Wind Realm. Even in countless ancient books, there were countless monstrous geniuses who couldn't do this. This scene was beyond their imagination and imagination. Land of Frost. Thousand Swords of Ice. Han Xuanbing's face became even more embarrassed after her attack was easily neutralized. As the pavilion master of the Cold Snow Pavilion, one of the four great sects, she couldn't even deal with a junior like Chu Fengmian. She would be laughed at for the rest of her life. This time, she had unleashed all of her strongest technique. Frost filled the sky and froze everything around. This kind of coldness seemed to have come to another world. This was Han Xuanbing's domain. In order to deal with Chu Fengmian, she had already used all her strength and the power of the domain. Land of Frost domain? Seeing the surrounding space change instantly, Chu Fengmian wasn't surprised at all. It wasn't the first time that he fought against a saint. Naturally, he knew the power of the domain. Any saint would have their own domain, no matter how strong or weak it was. The domain was the most powerful strength of a saint. Only Chu Fengmian was an exception. Although Chu Fengmian's strength was exactly the same as a saint, his realm hadn't reached the divine power realm, so he couldn't condense the domain. But even in the domain, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid of Han Xianbing. Junior, your strength is indeed enough to surprise me. But unfortunately, your strength has only reached the level of a saint, but your realm hasn't. The strength of a saint isn't just about strength. I'll let you see the power of the domain. I'll also let you know that the gap between you and me is insurmountable, Han Xianbing said coldly. Her aura instantly rose. In this ice kingdom, she was the supreme god. Thousand Swords of Ice. Kill. The ice crystals in the sky turned into ice swords and crazily pierced towards Chu Fengmian. In an instant, there were thousands of ice swords piercing towards Chu Fengmian. Han Xianbing is really angry this time. She actually used the strongest move of Han Xianbing Pavilion. This way, Chu Fengmian won't be able to resist it. In the domain, Han Xuanbing's strength will increase by 3 to 4 times, but Chu Fengmian's strength will remain unchanged. So, the gap of 3 to 4 times is not that easy to resist. No matter how strong Chu Fengmian is, he's not a true saint after all. Cheng Xiantian and Tang Xingjian talked with each other using their spiritual consciousness. They had already predicted the scene of Chu Fengmian being killed in the next moment. Chapter 259. Han Xianbing, you said that I'm not qualified to compete with Han's snow school? Then open your eyes and see. Chu Fengmian saw the sky full of ice swords, but there was no fear on his face, and his eyes were extremely relaxed. His tone was domineering to the extreme. Today, I'll definitely take Han Yueli away. Since you want to stop me, then I'll defeat you, the pavilion master of Han's Snow School, first." While speaking, a blood-red sword edge suddenly condensed on the red flame sword in Chu Fengmian's hand. In an instant, a 1,000-foot-long blood-red sword qi slashed toward Han Xianbing. Slaughtering swordsmanship, destroying heaven and earth. Boom! With a huge roar, the terrifying sword qi hit Han Xuanbing's body. Now that Chu Fengmian had a breakthrough, his power was dozens of times stronger than before. In addition, Chu Fengmian had killed countless warriors recently, so his slaughtering swordsmanship was much more powerful. Now, the 1,000-foot-long sword qi was so powerful that even Chu Fengmian didn't expect it. Chu Fengmian wasn't the only one who didn't expect it. No one expected that Chu Fengmian could suddenly burst out such a terrifying power. The sword qi flashed, and most of the power slashed on Han Xuanbing's body, shattering the domain around Han Xianbing. Chu Fengmian didn't have a domain, but he had a way to resist the domain, which was to shatter the domain with his power. At the moment when the domain was shattered, Han Xianbing spat out a mouthful of blood. This was the power of the backlash. His spiritual power became extremely chaotic, and he suffered a serious injury. This is a lesson for you. If it weren't for the fact that Han's Snow School is Yueli's sect, you would have died. Looking at Han Xianbing, Chu Fengmian said coldly. He was already merciful in the previous strike. If it weren't for Han Yueli, Han Xianbing would be dead now. If you have the ability, then kill me. Unfortunately, if you kill me, Han Yueli's master will also die. Chu Fengmian, I'll give you a word of advice. Leave obediently now. Otherwise, you won't be the only one who will be harmed. Han Xian coldly snorted and rudely said to Han Yueli, "If you want your master, Elder Hanqing, to live, then stay here obediently." It seems that you used this to force her to come to the wedding. Chu Fengmian glanced at Han Xianbing, and the killing intent in his words became even stronger. He originally considered giving Han Xianbing a chance and sparing her life, but Han Xianbing actually dared to threaten him. She was simply courting death. Using the lives of your disciples to threaten others. It's really unfortunate that the Cold Snow School has a pavilion master like you. When Chu Fengmian spoke, he was extremely disdainful. The most important thing for a sect was its cohesion. Han Xianbing, who used the lives of her disciples to threaten others, was simply the most disdainful thing. Junior, what do you know? It was crazy to destroy the Cold Snow Pavilion just to protect one person. However, no one dared to question the strength that Chu Fengmian had shown today. The pavilion master of the Cold Snow School, Han Xianbing, was easily defeated by Chu Fengmian. It was not impossible for Chu Fengmian to destroy the Cold Snow School. Chu Fengmian, how dare you? Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Han Xuanbing's eyes widened. Chapter 260. Killing a saint was an extremely crazy act. However, Chu Fengmian said that he would kill Han Xianbing, the pavilion master of the Cold Snow Pavilion. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold and he moved his sword. Endless killing intent gathered on his sword. It was obvious that the slash was going to slay Han Xianbing. Stop! Just when Chu Fengmian was about to attack, several figures moved at the same time. Yan Mang, the sect master of the Candle Flame sect, and the two saints of the Martial Victory Academy, Cheng Xiantian and Tang Xingjian, roared at the same time. The three figures stood in front of Han Xianbing at the same time. If Chu Fengmian killed someone else, they might not act so quickly. However, if Chu Fengmian killed Han Xianbing, they would have to act. Han Xianbing was a saint and the pavilion master of the Cold Snow Pavilion, one of the four great sects. If Chu Fengmian killed Han Xianbing in the Martial Victory Academy today, the Martial Victory Academy would lose face. Chu Fengmian, where do you think you are? How dare you be so arrogant? Looks like you don't put our Martial Victory Academy in your eyes. Cheng Xiantian and Tang Jianxing roared at the same time. They released all of their spiritual energy. Their realms were similar to Han Xuanbing's, so they did not dare to underestimate Chu Fengmian, who could easily defeat Han Xianbing. The spiritual energies in their bodies had already been pushed to the limit. As long as they attacked, they would be able to instantly erupt with their full strength. What? Qing Xiantian, you want to fight with me? I once said that I would destroy the Qing family and family Chu. Since Chu Heng is dead, you'll be buried with him. Chu Fengmian glanced at Qing Xiantian and sneered. Qing Xiantian was the one who made the countless plans to deal with Chu Fengmian. Now, the Qing family's revenge was on him. Lawless. Chu Fengmian, do you really think you're invincible and can do whatever you want? Qing Xiantian roared in rage. He was a supreme expert who had stepped into the divine force realm and became a saint. He was an existence that everyone respected and feared. However, in Chu Fengmian's words, he was like an ant that could be killed at any time. Lawless? Invincible? Of course, I haven't reached that level, but I'm more than enough to deal with you. Chu Fengmian glanced at Qing Xiantian and sneered. Then, he looked at Tang Jianxing and Yen. The two of you want to make an enemy out of this Chu? Qing Xiantian will die a dead man. I didn't expect you two to be so stupid. While speaking, Chu Fengmian couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He looked at the two as if he was looking at two dead people. As long as they choose to become Chu Fa's an enemy, they must die. Chu Fengmian die. Bees. The saint of the martial saint of the academy. To stop. Tang Xingjian looked at Chu Fengmian and said righteously. To work. To works. To work to works to. To work to work to work to work to do. To work to work to work work and do. Work works work. To work. Oh, you want me to be your slave? Hearing Tang Xingjian's words, Chu Fengmian's expression changed slightly. All right, then I'll place a restriction on your body and treat you as my most lowly servant. You'll work for me. Chu Fengmian laughed. He had made up his mind. He would subdue Tang Xingjian and place the heavenly death seal on him. He would make him his most humble slave. What about you? Why do you choose to be my enemy? Chu Fengmian looked at Yen Mang and asked. I don't care about your grudge with the Martial Saint Academy. But the scarlet flame sword in your hand is the most precious treasure of the Candle Flame sect. You must hand it over. Yen Mang looked at Chu Fengmian and said angrily. You killed my son. You must cripple your cultivation and kneel on the ground for 3 years to wash away your sins. I'll let you live. Otherwise, you'll die today. Ha 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 ha. Chu Fengmian laughed maniacally at Yen Mang's words. It seems like Prince Yannan is arrogant. Like son, like father. You're both arrogant and stupid. You want me to cripple my cultivation? Just the 3 of you? Even if the 3 of you attack together, you're just a mayfly trying to shake a tree. Today, I'll kill Han Xianbing in front of you. Let's see if you have the ability to stop me. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered. Han Xianbing had offended Chu Fengmian. If he didn't kill him, Chu Fengmian wouldn't be happy. Dragon fighting in the wild. Invincible. Chu Fengmian pushed the power of the battle dragon will to the limit. Dragon scales condensed from spiritual energy appeared on Chu Fengmian's body. They covered Chu Fengmian's skin and caused his strength to rise crazily. Let's attack together. Stop this brat and protect Pavilion Master Han. Qing Xiantian roared. His strength expanded rapidly. It was terrifying to the extreme. Chu Fengmian was still holding back his strength. This wasn't Chu Fengmian's full strength. The 3 of them unleashed all of their spiritual energy and unleashed countless martial skills at Chu Fengmian. I've said it before. Even if the 3 of you work together, you're nothing but ants. Chu Fengmian said arrogantly. A stone steel suddenly appeared in Chu Fengmian's palm. When Qing Xiantian saw it, his face changed. This stone tablet contained an extremely strong power. It was a violent power that could shatter everything in time. The richly lush steel. He knew that Chu Fengmian had obtained the richly lush steel, but he didn't expect Chu Fengmian to be able to use its power. When Chu Fengmian had wreaked havoc in the Martial Victory Institute, he had needed to burn medicinal pills to activate the richly lush steel. Burning medicinal pills was the only way to activate the richly lush steel. He couldn't even use a tenth of the steel's power. Naturally, he wasn't afraid. But now, Chu Fengmian was able to activate the richly lush steel with his own power. The difference in power was enough to cause a qualitative change. He was 10 times stronger than before. That's the richly lush steel. Hurry! Don't hold back. Use all of your trump cards. That's the only way to stop him. Qing Xiantian roared. Boundless spatial energy condensed in his palm, transforming into a blade. Greater Spatial Slash. Chapter 261. As for Tang Xingjian, as soon as he heard the words rich lush steel, his eyes flickered with fear. Gritting his teeth, he coughed up a mouthful of quintessence blood. The quintessence blood transformed into a blood-red sword in front of Tang Jianxing. He knew how terrifying the rich lush steel was, and didn't dare to underestimate it. Therefore, he unleashed his most powerful attack toward Chu Fengmian. Finally, Yan Guang used his most powerful trump card, burning his quintessence blood to summon a flame dragon that roared as it shot toward Chu Fengmian. A blade, a sword, and a flame dragon. 3 terrifying streams of spiritual power shot toward Chu Fengmian at the same time. These 3 experts are going all out. They're even burning their quintessence blood. Not even the most powerful of the great saints could stand up to them. That said, Chu Fengmian has the rich lush steel. According to the legends, it's a spirit item personally forged by Grand Emperor Richlush. It seems likely that Chu Fengmian's terrifying strength came from Grand Emperor Richlush's treasure hoard. Grand Emperor Richlush's treasure hoard was once the most powerful expert in the victorious warrior nation. I can't believe Chu Fengmian got it. I wonder who's going to win. If Chu Fengmian wins, then nobody in the victorious warrior nation will be able to stop him. Countless martial artists were chatting among themselves as they watched the battle up above. The battle in the sky was simply the most terrifying battle they had ever seen in their lives. Everyone was boiling with excitement and envy. Burning your quintessence blood? Do you think that's going to work? You can't possibly do anything to the power of the rich lush steel. Rich lush palm of the great net. Buff it up and destroy it for me. Chu Fengmian took a step forward, summoning another stream of spiritual power to fuse with the power of the rich lush steel. At the same time, Chu Fengmian drew on the power of the rich lush palm of the great net. The rich lush palm of the great net and the rich lush steel came from the same source, and when they were used together, they could achieve twice the results with half the effort. Thanks to the power of the rich lush palm, the power of the rich lush tombstone was several times stronger. Under the attack of the richly lush tombstone, the combined martial skill of the 3 cultivators, which had burned their blood essence, was instantly destroyed. The remaining power was enough to force the 3 cultivators to retreat. Almost at the same time, Chu Fengmian took another step forward, arriving in front of profound cold ice. Without hesitation, he slammed the abundant lush steel down. Boom! With a loud boom, Xuanbing's body started to shatter bit by bit. His flesh and blood started to fall apart. His entire body was completely destroyed in an instant. A saint expert was killed by Chu Fengmian just like that. Han Xuanbing's vital energy was directly devoured by Chu Fengmian. Good. As expected of a saint's blood qi, it's 1,000 times thicker than a warrior at the peak of the wind-resisting realm. Killing Han Xianbing is equivalent to killing 1,000 warriors like Prince Yannan. If this continues, my slaughtering sword technique will become even more powerful. Chu Fengmian was overjoyed. His aura was rising steadily as his blood energy was devoured. Defeated! 3 saints working together couldn't even compete with Chu Fengmian. Han Xianbing, the pavilion master of the freezing snow pavilion, was killed just like that? He's a legendary figure who had dominated the victorious martial country for hundreds of years. Today, he died in the hands of Chu Fengmian. Invincible, invincible, this is the real invincible figure. The crown prince is not even worthy of carrying his shoes. This is the real martial Dao heaven's pride. Countless experts were discussing. Fang Xiandao and Feng Hua, who hadn't made a move yet, had their expressions changing as if they were thinking about something. Chu Fengmian had defeated 3 saints in an instant and killed Han Xianbing in front of them. This was enough to prove Chu Fengmian's strength. In a one-on-one battle, no one present could be Chu Fengmian's opponent. Even if Yan Mang, Qing Xiantian, and Tang Xingjian worked together, they wouldn't be able to gain any advantage over Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, you've gone too far. How dare you kill Pavilion Master Han in the Victorious Martial Academy? Do you think there's no one in the Victorious Martial Academy? Today we have so many experts here. So what if you're strong? Let's attack together. There'll be a moment when your strength is exhausted. Let's see how you'll be then. Qing Xiantian roared angrily. No matter how strong a person was, his spiritual energy was limited. He didn't believe that they couldn't exhaust Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy with so many of them attacking together. Once Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy was exhausted, without spiritual energy, Chu Fengmian wouldn't be able to exert his strength. At that time, he wouldn't be at their mercy. However, Island Master Feng, Sect Master Feng, if you all attack together and kill this kid today, the Victorious Martial Academy will reward you handsomely. Tang Jianxing looked around and said. Fang Xiandao and Feng Hua were 2 saints. Although Fang Xiandao hadn't truly stepped into the saint realm, he had the immortal mystic door, the formation sex artifact of the 3 immortal island. His true strength was no different from a saint. In addition to Tang Jianxing, Qing Xiantian, and Yan Mang, there were a total of 5 saints. He didn't believe that Chu Fengmian's strength could withstand the joint attack of 5 saints. Tang Jianxing's words immediately set off countless waves. It sounded like they were going to kill Chu Fengmian at all costs today. Chu Fengmian's existence was no longer within their tolerance. The various fortuitous encounters he had were worth it even if they had to sacrifice a few saints. One had to know that Chu Fengmian was able to contend against 3 saints at the first level of the Imperial Wind Realm. They didn't dare to imagine how terrifying his fortuitous encounter was. You want to kill me? Let's see who dares. Chu Fengmian looked at Tang Jianxing and said coldly with endless killing intent. Didn't you call for people to join forces to kill me? If anyone dares to attack, I'll be the first to kill them. Even if I die today, I can kill more than half of you here. Let's see who's willing to be the scapegoat. As he spoke, the abundant lush monument in Chu Fengmian's hand flashed with light. He was ready to attack at any time. If anyone dared to attack, Chu Fengmian would kill them. That's right, there's also this old man. Even if this old man dies today, it won't be a problem to drag 2 or 3 of you down with me. The primordial dragon turtle laughed and flew over to stand beside Chu Fengmian. He seemed to be having an easy time fighting Lei Che. Chapter 262. Dean. Looking at the heavily injured Lei Che, Qing Xiantian and Tang Xingjian were stunned. The 2 of them only focused on Chu Fengmian and did not pay attention to the battle between Lei Che and the ancient dragon turtle. In their opinion, the ancient dragon turtle had just stepped into the divine power realm, while Lei Che was already at the peak of the divine power realm. Lei Che should have won this battle. However, the result was something they did not expect. Lei Che would be defeated so badly. Could it be that not only Chu Fengmian, but also Chu Fengmian's people were so monstrous? Looking at the ancient dragon turtle standing beside Chu Fengmian, countless people fell silent. If they were to fight to the death with Chu Fengmian today, both sides would suffer. No one wanted to step forward and take the lead. The abundant lush monument is a heaven-grade spiritual artifact. With your realm, you can only use it once. Do you think you can scare me? Today, I alone am enough to kill you. I will avenge my son. Candle Flame Sect Master, Yan Mang, stepped forward and said angrily to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian had killed his only son, young noble Yan Nan. His hatred towards Chu Fengmian was like a torrential river, boundless and limitless. Today, even if the others did not take action, he would kill Chu Fengmian. Today I will kill you. I will suppress you and bring you to my son's grave. I will make you kneel for the rest of your life to pay for your sins. Yanmeng coldly snorted as the spiritual energy in his body gushed forth. Under his towering rage, his cultivation base actually broke through to the second level of the divine force realm. His spiritual energy rose crazily and was many times stronger than before. As the Candle Flame Sect Master, Yan Meng's strength was terrifying to the extreme. If you want to be enemies with my young master, you will have to get through me first. The ancient dragon turtle standing beside Chu Fengmian stood out and blocked Chu Fengmian's path. Looking at the ancient dragon turtle, Yan Meng frowned. He was clear about the ancient dragon turtle's strength. It did not even need much strength to deal with Lei Che. Even if he had a breakthrough, he did not want to fight with the ancient dragon turtle. He turned his eyes and suddenly said to Chu Fengmian, Chu Fengmian, are you going to hide behind an old man? Aren't you arrogant? Do you have the ability to fight me? He was trying to goad Chu Fengmian. He didn't believe that Chu Fengmian would be his match in a one-on-one fight. The amount of spiritual power required to activate the richly lush tombstone was astronomical. The fact that Chu Fengmian had only done it once meant that it had consumed too much spiritual power. He calculated that Chu Fengmian didn't have much spiritual power left. Otherwise, with Chu Fengmian's arrogance, he would definitely take the initiative to fight. However, when he was scheming, he couldn't see the mockery in Chu Fengmian's eyes. Indeed, it was a mockery. Even if Yan Mang had broken through, Chu Fengmian wouldn't have put him in his eyes. Initially, Chu Fengmian planned to let the primordial dragon turtle finish him off. However, since he was courting death, Chu Fengmian wouldn't hold back. Really? Fight with you? Why not? Since you want to die, this Chu will send you to reunite with your son. Chu Fengmian laughed and took a step forward, his eyes flashing. It seemed that killing Han Xianbing wasn't enough for Chu Fengmian. If Yan Mang wanted to die, then Chu Fengmian would kill him as well. He would kill him until no one dared to oppose Chu Fengmian. Die. You're just a kid. You think you can do whatever you want just because you've had a fortuitous encounter? Let me tell you something. In front of a true expert, your fortuitous encounter is nothing. The richly lush tombstone isn't your own power. Kingdom of Flame. Yan Mang suddenly attacked and the surrounding space instantly transformed into countless flames. The entire sky was filled with a sea of fire. Yan Mang was like a god of fire amidst the flames. He was a true god of fire, and all of the flames were under his control. 9 Flame Divine Dragons. Condense. 9 Dragon Imprisonment Technique. Countless flames condensed into 9 flame dragons. Each of them was vivid and lifelike, as if they were real flame dragons. They roared at Chu Fengmian. 9 Flame Divine Dragons, 9 Dragon Imprisonment Technique. This is the strongest taboo technique of the Candle Flame Sect. Every time it is used, it will consume the user's lifespan. It's terrifying to the extreme. Among the countless martial arts of the victorious martial country, it's ranked in the top 5. Looks like Yan Mang is determined to kill. Chu Fengmian killed young master Yan Nan. No wonder Yan Mang is going all out against him. Countless people in the crowd looked at the scene in the sky, and they knew that Yan Mang was going all out. Even a saint would find it difficult to block this move. Cheng Xiantian, Tang Xingjian, Fang Xiandao, and Feng Hua stood aside, quietly watching. However, they weren't relaxed. They were observing and waiting for the result. Once Yan Mang gained the upper hand, the 4 of them would go all out and kill Chu Fengmian. 9 Dragon Imprisonment Technique? Dragons are the supreme beings of all beasts, the divine beasts of heaven and earth. How is that possible? Invincible battle dragon, endless dragon prestige. Chu Fengmian sneered. Suddenly, endless dragon prestige emerged from the sword in his hand. Chu Fengmian possessed the bloodline of the ancient war dragon, which was purer than many of the true dragons. Only he could truly control the dragon prestige. Yan Mang's 9-dragon imprisonment technique was simply ridiculous in Chu Fengmian's eyes. The 9-flame divine dragon that he condensed was just a reptile in Chu Fengmian's eyes. Ancestor of the true dragons. Undefeated in 100 battles. Chu Fengmian shouted angrily. A ray of sword chi suddenly shot out from the sword in his hand. This ray of sword chi turned into an incomparably huge dragon. This dragon was different from the current true dragons. It was countless times stronger and had endless dragon prestige. What is this? A true dragon? No, even a true dragon doesn't have such terrifying power. Dragon King. Or even the Dragon Emperor. No, this is an ancient war dragon. Only an ancient war dragon can have such terrifying power. What is Chu Fengmian's origin? How can he condense the appearance of an ancient war dragon? Cheng Xiantian and Tang Xingjian exclaimed in shock when they saw the condensed dragon. This kind of terrifying power could only be possessed by an ancient war dragon. They knew that Chu Fengmian had dragon prestige, but they didn't expect that he could condense such a terrifying dragon. Chapter 263. Most of the dragons they conjured were based on the descriptions in ancient books. They didn't even have the power of a true dragon. Chu Fengmian's primordial war dragon, on the other hand, was conjured from his bloodline. It was just like a real primordial war dragon. The 9 flames divine dragon conjured by Yan Mang was like a worm. It couldn't even be compared to a flood dragon. It was a worm, an ant. The two hadn't even exchanged blows, but the power was enough to determine the victor. Devour! Chu Fengmian laughed. The primordial war dragon he conjured rushed towards the 9 flames divine dragon. It opened its mouth and swallowed the 9 flames divine dragon. Yan Mang's strongest move had been easily neutralized by Chu Fengmian. Yan Mang, do you think you're a match for me without using the richly lush monument? I don't need the richly lush monument to deal with you. Chu Fengmian looked at Yan Mang and sneered. His eyes flashed with killing intent, and the sword in his hand slashed towards Yan Mang. Yan Mang had attacked Chu Fengmian multiple times. Today, he had to kill him. Endless blood energy gathered on the sword. It was the sword of slaughter. Once again, 1,000-foot-long sword energy gathered and slashed towards Yan Mang. Not good. Cheng Xiantian and Tang Xingjian couldn't help but retreat. They had experienced the power of this sword. If they were hit by it, they would be seriously injured, let alone help Yan Mang block it. In such a situation, no one present could block Chu Fengmian's sword. Chu Fengmian, if you want to kill Yan Mang, you'd better think twice. A cold voice suddenly came from behind Chu Fengmian, causing Chu Fengmian's expression to instantly change. He turned around and saw a figure standing behind Han Yueli. A sword was pressed against Han Yueli's throat, ready to pierce through at any moment. Square. Immortal. Dao. Chu Fengmian's face suddenly turned red. His eyes were filled with a supreme killing intent. This killing intent was extremely terrifying. The entire horizon seemed to be dyed red because of this killing intent. You're courting death. Fang Immortal had used the Gate of Immortality to sneak up behind Han Yueli and subdue Han Yueli. He planned to use Han Yueli to threaten Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian hated being threatened the most, not to mention being threatened by his woman. This had already touched his most terrifying reverse scale. A monstrous killing intent appeared on Chu Fengmian's face. I don't know if I'll die, but if you're not obedient. Facing Chu Fengmian's anger, Fang Xiandao sneered and said without care. Release Yan Mang. Do you really think you can threaten me? Chu Fengmian looked at Fang Xiandao with eyes full of hatred. He had to tear Fang Xiandao into pieces. Unless you don't want her to live. Otherwise, you can only listen to me obediently. Fang Xiandao looked at Chu Fengmian and sneered. You have no other choice now. What do you want to do? Release Yan Mang. Fine. Chu Fengmian looked at Fang Immortal, his eyes flashing coldly. Then he sent out a stream of sword energy, which shattered and vanished. Yan Mang, who had dodged the attack, immediately ran far away. Only then was he able to catch his breath. I released her, Fang Immortal said. You should release her too. Release her? How could a puny Yan Mang trade for her? When Fang Immortal saw Yan Mang fleeing, his expression turned cold, and his eyes gleamed with greed. Hand over the rich lush steel, Fang Immortal said. And hand over all the treasures you took from Grand Emperor Richlush. Hand them all over. You'll release her? Chu Fengmian looked at Fang Xiandao and said. His spiritual energy had already expanded to the extreme. He was ready to attack at any moment and destroy Fang Xiandao. Like I said, you don't have a choice, Fang Immortal said, taking a step closer to Chu Fengmian with his sword. Are you going to hand them over or not? It seems you really do deserve to die, Fang Immortal. I've already given you one chance. Since you refuse, I'll kill you. All of a sudden, Chu Fengmian let out a roar of rage. He pushed his spiritual power to the limit, causing the rich lush steel to swell and shoot toward Fang Xiandao. What? Aren't you afraid I'll kill him? Not even Fang Immortal could have guessed that Chu Fengmian would make a move like this. As far as he was concerned, he had Han Yueli as a hostage. How could someone like Chu Fengmian give up on Han Yueli? Chu Fengmian valued relationships, and that was his greatest weakness. But why would he suddenly attack? Fang Immortal couldn't figure it out. Did he not care about Han Yueli? Impossible. Otherwise, Chu Fengmian wouldn't have taken such a huge risk to cause trouble. Why? Before Fang Immortal could figure it out, the rich lush steel was right in front of him. Even if I die, Chu Fengmian, I'm going to drag you down with me. Fang Immortal steeled his heart and slashed his sword toward Han Yueli. But then, a dragon's roar erupted from Han Yueli's body. A drop of golden blood appeared on Han Yueli's body, transforming into the soul of a dragon. The roar of the dragon forced Fang Immortal back. Did you really think I wouldn't be prepared? Fang Xiandao, go to hell! Chu Fengmian roared, sending the power of the rich lush steel crashing into Fang Immortal. Instantly, a bronze door appeared in front of him. It was none other than the door of immortality, which he had summoned to block the attack of the rich lush steel. The door of immortality, is it? You think a puny earth-grade spirit treasure can stand up to the rich lush steel? Shatter! Chu Fengmian shouted, sending the power of his rich lush grand sieve palm into the rich lush steel. Then, he sent it smashing toward the door of immortality, shattering it into pieces. The treasure of the three immortals' island was smashed to smithereens by Chu Fengmian. The remaining power of the attack sent Fang Immortal flying 10 miles away, blood spraying from his mouth. Get over here! Chu Fengmian waved his hand and grabbed Fang Xiandao, bringing him back to Chu Fengmian's front. Marrow extraction, bone refining, devil refining. A surge of spiritual energy emerged from Chu Fengmian's hand, burrowing into Fang Immortal's body. This wave of spiritual energy instantly extracted countless bone marrow from Fang Xiandao's body. The bone marrow was ignited and started burning madly in Fang Xiandao's body. Arg! Chapter 264. Originally, Chu Fengmian would never use such a sinister demonic art. However, Fang Xiandao had truly offended Chu Fengmian. Killing him would be letting him off too easily. Chu Fengmian wanted him to suffer a fate worse than death. Countless bone marrow flames began to refine Fang Xiandao's body into a black pearl. Within the black pearl, Fang Xiandao's blood-curdling screams continued to resound. The inextinguishable flames within the black pearl would burn Fang Xiandao forever. Just like the spiritual weapon, he would suffer eternally. Demon! Chu Fengmian is definitely a demon. What an evil demonic art. If we don't kill him now, he'll definitely be a calamity in the future. Cheng Xiantian and Tang Jianxing both said in unison. However, they didn't dare to take another step forward. Fang Xiandao's blood-curdling screams continued to ring out from the Black Pearl. Everyone was afraid that they would be the next Fang Xiandao. Stop! A deep voice suddenly rang out. The world had turned into a world of ink. Everything, including the mountains and rivers, were all ink. A figure suddenly condensed out of the ink, causing such a ruckus in Wuxing Academy. What a scandal! The ink figure gradually turned into a white-haired old man. This white-haired old man was already extremely old. His skin was like dried tree bark, and it seemed like he would die at any time. However, the spiritual energy in his body didn't weaken because of his age. Instead, it was incomparably strong. It was much stronger than anyone else's spiritual energy. Seeing the old man suddenly appear and block Chu Fengmian's sword, Chu Fengmian didn't continue to attack. Instead, he sized up the old man and was shocked. The old man's spiritual energy was extremely strong. It far surpassed anyone else's. He was definitely at the 9th level of the Divine Power Realm. He might even be at the peak of the Divine Power Realm. Just like Chu Fengmian's master, Xianbei Saint, he was only one step away from the life and death realm. There's actually such a person in Wuxing Academy. It seems like I've underestimated the academy. Chu Fengmian looked at the old man and muttered to himself. The ancient dragon turtle beside him also transmitted a message to Chu Fengmian. Young master, this guy is a peak saint. Even if we join forces, we won't be a match for him. We have to be careful. Saint Inc. Founding Elder. When Lei Che, Cheng Xiantian, and Tang Xingjian saw the old man appear, they hurriedly spoke up as if they had seen a life-saving straw. Founding Elder, it's this brat who has wreaked havoc in Wuxing Academy. Today, I beseech the Founding Elder to take action and suppress this brat. Bastard! Before the three of them could finish their words, Saint Shui Mo suddenly struck out with his palm, which turned into a wave of spiritual energy and directly hit the three of them in the face. Since when has there been such chaos in the Martial Victory Academy? This young saint should also be from our Martial Victory Academy. How can we kill each other when we are all from the same academy? When Saint Shui Mo slapped the three of them in the face, countless people felt that this scene was extremely strange. Saint Shui Mo was a legendary figure in Wuxing Academy because he was one of the founders of Wuxing Academy. He was known as the Founding Elder because he had joined forces with others to create Wuxing Academy. Countless people had thought that Saint Shui Mo had already fallen. However, they had never expected that such a legendary figure would actually appear now. Moreover, the moment he appeared, he did not attack Chu Fengmian. Instead, he taught the three of them a lesson. This made everyone puzzled. Even Chu Fengmian was slightly stunned. He did not know why Saint Shui Mo was so polite to him. Lei Che, Cheng Xiantian, and Tang Xingjian were beaten and did not dare to make a sound. Although they were saints of Wuxing Academy, when they had just entered, Saint Shui Mo was already a saint and was a legend. Even if they were beaten, they did not dare to resist. They did not even dare to say a word. What is the name of this young saint? Is he from the hall of our Wuxing Academy? Saint Shui Mo asked the three of them. He had been in seclusion all year round, so he was naturally not familiar with their affairs, not to mention Chu Fengmian, who had only appeared a few months ago. Replying to the Founding Elder, his name is Chu Fengmian. He is the disciple of Saint Xianbei. Lei Che respectfully replied. Xianbei's disciple? Xianbei is already pursuing the life and death realm, right? No wonder there is a commotion. Saint Shui Mo nodded and said. Although he did not care about worldly affairs, he could naturally analyze that if Saint Xianbei was here, things would not have turned out this way. Lei Che, as the dean, you can't avoid the internal strife of Wuxing Academy. Saint Shui Mo looked at Lei Che and coldly shouted. He then turned his head and looked at Chu Fengmian. Today's matter ends here. Chu Fengmian, you have already caused a commotion. It's time for you to stop. Hearing Saint Shui Mo's words, Chu Fengmian pondered and suddenly said, You want me to stop? Sure, but I have 2 conditions. Chu Fengmian said calmly. Conditions? Chu Fengmian, aren't you going overboard? Saint Shui Mo has already given you face. How dare you make conditions? Cheng Xiantian said furiously. Cheng Xiantian, if you dare to speak nonsense, you will end up like Fang Xiandao. If I want to kill you, it will be as easy as killing a dog. Chu Fengmian laughed and looked at Cheng Xiantian. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Cheng Xiantian almost vomited blood. He did not expect Chu Fengmian to be so arrogant in front of Saint Shui Mo. However, he did not dare to refute Chu Fengmian's words. He was afraid that he would become the second Fang Xiandao. For Chu Fengmian, killing him was not a difficult thing. Tell me, what conditions do you have? Saint Shui Mo raised his eyebrows, as if he was about to fly into a rage. However, he suppressed it and said, As long as it's not too much, this old man will agree to it. It's very simple. The first condition is him. Chu Fengmian stretched out his hand and pointed at Yan Mang. I want to kill him now. You can't stop me. What? You want to kill our sect leader? Chu Fengmian, don't be too arrogant. Demon. This guy has already turned into a demon. What is such a peerless demon waiting for? Hurry up and kill him. Countless disciples of the Candle Flame sect roared crazily. When they heard that Chu Fengmian wanted to kill Yan Mang, they all roared loudly. Now I'll change my conditions. I want you to kill all the people of the Candle Flame sect. Hearing the disciples of the Candle Flame sect, Chu Fengmian said coldly. Chapter 265. Chu Fengmian, you can be arrogant when you're young, but arrogance will only lead to your own destruction. Saint Shui Mo said in a deep voice after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. Our Martial Victory Academy is an ally of the 4 sections. I can't accept this condition. Ally? Saint Shui Mo, aren't these words a little too fake coming from your mouth? The corners of Chu Fengmian's mouth curled into a smile as he spoke with assurance. The Martial Victory Academy and the 4 sects have always been fighting both openly and secretly. If I take this opportunity to kill these people, it will only benefit the Martial Victory Academy and remove a huge threat. Saint Shui Mo should know what I'm thinking. Alright, I promise you that I won't stop you from killing these people from the Candle Flame sect. Saint Shui Mo thought for a while, then took a step back and agreed to Chu Fengmian's request. Indeed, as Chu Fengmian said, the Martial Victory Academy and the 4 sects were not allies. They were fighting both openly and secretly, and they couldn't wait to destroy each other. He didn't want to offend Chu Fengmian to protect these people from the Candle Flame sect. Killing these people would weaken the Candle Flame sect, and it would also be beneficial to them. Hearing Saint Shui Mo's answer, the faces of the Candle Flame sect's disciples changed drastically, as if their death was near. As for Yan Mang, after hearing Saint Shui Mo's answer, he turned around and turned into a streak of light, trying to escape. Trying to escape? Chu Fengmian sneered, looking at Yan Mang. He activated the abundant lush steel in his hand again, and it turned into a streak of light that shot towards Yan Mang at a speed 10,000 times faster than Yan Mang. In an instant, Yan Mang was killed by Chu Fengmian. His vitality was completely devoured by Chu Fengmian, and the Candle Flame sect's disciples couldn't escape Chu Fengmian's palm even if they wanted to. Boom! Boom! Chu Fengmian's palm killed countless Candle Flame sect's disciples, and their vitality was completely devoured by Chu Fengmian. I've already agreed to your first condition. Chu Fengmian, you are also responsible for today's havoc in the Martial Victory Academy, so you must make up for your mistakes for the Academy. Saint Shui Mo looked at Chu Fengmian and said, Currently, the new 6 Nations War is about to begin. Our Martial Victory Academy will also participate with the Martial Victory Nation. You must go and kill the experts from the other 5 nations. You've killed 3 saints today. You must kill 3 saints and 100 wind-resisting realm warriors from the other 5 nations as compensation. The War of the 6 Nations was a war that took place every 30 years between the 6 nations, including the victorious martial nation. The experts would kill each other and plunder resources. Every time the 6 nations went to war, countless experts would be born from the sea of blood. This was a method to nurture experts, and it was also a form of competition. An expert could only grow by going through countless battles. The war between the 6 nations was the best tempering. Body-refining realm martial artists, spirit sea realm martial artists, wind-controlling realm martial artists, and even saints. These were the fighting forces of the 6 nations. Today, Chu Fengmian had killed 3 saints, and the victorious martial country had lost a large portion of their fighting forces. Therefore, the condition today was that Chu Fengmian had to participate in the battle. Participate in the War of the 6 Nations, kill 3 saints, and 100 wind-controlling realm warriors? No problem. Chu Fengmian smiled and said. This condition didn't matter to him. Chu Fengmian had heard of the War of the 6 Nations. He had originally planned to participate and fight for the victorious martial country. Chu Fengmian didn't have such thoughts. However, the War of the 6 Nations could bring him countless benefits, and he could plunder the enemy nation's resources at will. This made Chu Fengmian very tempted. Now that he had used up all the resources and elixirs in order to break through, he needed to replenish some and continue accumulating for his future cultivation. As long as you agree to my second condition, I'll help you kill 5 saints. Chu Fengmian laughed heartily and increased the number of people by 2. Are you serious? Saint Shui Mo's eyes lit up when he heard this. Victorious Wushuang country was the weaker country among the 6 countries. Normally, only high-level saints could kill the saints of victorious Wushuang. How many high-level saints were there in the entire victorious martial country? They could be counted with one hand. People like Chu Fengmian, who didn't have a high cultivation level but had the strength to kill saints, were the most terrifying. They wouldn't attract attention, but they were enough to kill saints. Saint Shui Mo said again. What other conditions do you have? Tell me. My second condition is very simple. Kill him. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold as he pointed at Ji Lingtian, who was kneeling beside him. Chu Fengmian didn't have the habit of cutting weeds without removing the root. Ji Lingtian was a genius with great fortune. Chu Fengmian wasn't that stupid to let him develop freely. Chu Fengmian had to kill him even if he didn't want to. Impossible. Chu Fengmian, you're delusional. Lei Che and Cheng Xiantian said angrily. The Crown Prince is the successor of the next mansion master. We won't let you kill him. Chu Fengmian, don't push your luck. This is the only condition. It's impossible to change. Chu Fengmian's eyes were resolute. Ji Lingtian must die today. This was Chu Fengmian's decision, and no one could change it. Founder Ancestor, save me. Ji Lingtian begged on the ground. As long as you save me today, I'm willing to work for Wuxing Academy from now on. I'm even willing to be a slave. Ji Lingtian didn't want to die. A peerless genius like him was even more afraid of death. He had countless achievements, and he was only one step away from breaking through the divine power realm and becoming a saint. It was precisely because of this that he would rather be a slave than die. Saint Shui Mo began to ponder as he bitterly begged. Then, he spoke in a deep voice. Chu Fengmian, change your condition. Saint Shui Mo raised his eyebrows. He glanced at Ji Lingtian and then looked at Chu Fengmian. He's a genius nurtured by our Wuxing Academy. He won't be at your mercy. Change your condition. Under the current circumstances, if they saved Ji Lingtian would definitely serve the Wuxing Academy wholeheartedly. A saint willing to be a slave was much more useful than someone who couldn't be controlled like Chu Fengmian. The price of sacrificing Ji Lingtian to fulfill Chu Fengmian's condition was too great. Then there's nothing to talk about. He must die today. Even if you want to stop him, you can't. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold, and his killing intent erupted again. Chu Fengmian didn't have any friendship with Saint Shui Mo. Chapter 266. Chu Fengmian, do you really think that our Academy of Wuxing is afraid of you? Lei Che cursed when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Since when did their Academy of Wuxing allow someone to ride on their heads? If Chu Fengmian really killed Ji Lingtian, their Academy of Wuxing would lose all face. You're going too far. Ancestral Elder, are you really going to let this brat ride on our heads? Qing Xiantian added. Their Qing family already had a huge grudge with Chu Fengmian. Sooner or later, Chu Fengmian would definitely seek revenge from the Qing family. If they could get Saint Shui Mo to kill Chu Fengmian today, then they would be able to avoid a huge problem. Saint Shui Mo pondered for a moment and said, Chu Fengmian, I know that you have a huge grudge with Ji Lingtian, but if you let him go today, this old man promises that he will never be your enemy. I can also guarantee that you will be the next principal of Wuxing Academy. The next principal of Wuxing Academy of Wuxing Academy? I don't want to be the principal of this little Academy of Wuxing. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold as he swept his gaze across the crowd. I'll say it now. Today, Ji Lingtian must die. If you want to stop him, you can try and see if you can stop him. Chu Fengmian sneered. There was no trace of politeness in his words. There was no room for negotiation in this matter. No matter what, Ji Lingtian was someone that Chu Fengmian must kill. This sentence was equivalent to an ultimatum. With Chu Fengmian's character, he naturally wouldn't go back on his words. Since Chu Fengmian said that he wanted to kill Ji Lingtian, there was no room for negotiation. Chu Fengmian, if you change your conditions today, we can still talk about it. If you don't even think about walking out of Wuxing Academy today. Saint Shui Mo snorted coldly. As a figure at the pinnacle of the divine power realm and the ancestral elder of Wuxing Academy, he was like an ancestor. When had he ever submitted to someone? He snorted coldly. Boundless spiritual energy had already pressed down on Chu Fengmian's body. The pressure from his body was so overwhelming that it seemed like he was the ruler of the world. Just this pressure alone was enough to make many saints unable to resist. However, under the oppressive might, Chu Fengmian was extremely free. The ancient era's dragon turtle beside him was also not affected in the slightest. Both of them possessed the battle dragon bloodline, so how could they be affected by such a small pressure? Faced with Saint Shui Mo's threat, Chu Fengmian did not get angry and instead laughed. Do you think that you can keep me here? As long as I leave today, your Martial Victory Academy will be filled with endless slaughter. Within a month, I guarantee that your Martial Victory Academy will be completely annihilated, and your academy will be dyed in blood. Chu Fengmian's words contained an endless threat. Qing Xiantian, Lei Che, and Tang Xingjian's expressions all stiffened, and then they became furious. What? Do you really think you're invincible? Today we will kill you right here. Tang Xingjian roared. Saint Shui Mo, please take action and suppress this brat. This brat is out of control. He's looking down on Martial Victory Academy. Saint Shumo, please take him down. Lei Che followed suit and said. However, Saint Shui Mo's expression suddenly became a lot more complicated when he heard their conversation. This was because he had also transmitted a message to Saint Shui Mo at the same time when Chu Fengmian had opened his mouth. It was this voice transmission that made Saint Shui Mo's considerations become complicated. The message was very simple. There were only 4 words. Life and death tribulation. Those who had reached the pinnacle of the divine power realm could encounter a life and death tribulation at any time. If they could pass it, they would step into the life and death realm. If they failed, they would turn into ashes. Once they released too much power, it would trigger the power of heaven and earth, and cause a life and death tribulation. This was not something that could be controlled by humans. Therefore, those who had reached the pinnacle of the divine power realm did not have the confidence to pass the life and death tribulation. They had to continue accumulating power at the pinnacle of the divine power realm and conceal their strength. Once they used their full strength, it would trigger a life and death tribulation. With Saint Shui Mo's current strength, the possibility of him passing the life and death tribulation was less than 10%. With Saint Shui Mo's strength, it was indeed possible to kill Chu Fengmian. However, if he wanted to do so, he would have to use his full strength. Once he used his full strength, the life and death tribulation would follow. At that time, if Chu Fengmian died, he would also die in the life and death tribulation. Chu Fengmian had calculated this point. That was why he dared to raise such a condition without fear. Saint Shui Mo did not dare to make a move. At the very least, Chu Fengmian did not believe that he would be willing to exchange his life for Chu Fengmian's. The stronger a cultivator was, the more afraid they would be of death. For those who had reached the pinnacle of the divine power realm, they were only a step away from the life and death realm. Although Saint Shui Mo looked very old now, once he passed the life and death tribulation and stepped into the life and death realm, he would instantly become young. It would be easy for him to return to his youth. The lifespan of a life and death realm cultivator was dozens or hundreds of times that of a divine power realm cultivator. They were almost immortal existences. That was why they were called life and death realm cultivators. Saint Shui Mo had been cultivating bitterly all this time. Naturally, he wanted to pass the life and death tribulation and accumulate his strength. Therefore, Chu Fengmian believed that he would not be willing to perish together with Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's idea was not bad. When he heard the words life and death tribulation, fear appeared in Saint Shui Mo's heart. He did not know where Chu Fengmian learned about the life and death tribulation, but it was indeed the thing he was most afraid of. The reason why he was so polite to Chu Fengmian was that he did not dare to use his full strength because of the life and death tribulation. Otherwise, he would have suppressed Chu Fengmian when he caused a ruckus in the Martial Victory Academy. He would not have raised any conditions with Chu Fengmian. He urged his power to frighten Chu Fengmian so that he would know how difficult it was and retreat. But now, all of Saint Shui Mo's schemes were easily seen through by Chu Fengmian. This made him unable to do anything for the time being. There was no point in continuing to scare him. Founding Elder? Lei Che and the others looked at Saint Shui Mo's eyes and understood one thing. Saint Shui Mo was indeed unable to make a move. Chapter 267. Saint Shui Mo, it's fine even if you kill Ji Lingtian today. It's not like your Wuxing Academy doesn't have the ability to nurture a saint. Chu Fengmian said with a smile when he saw Saint Shui Mo's expression. He knew that he had guessed correctly. Saint Shui Mo did not dare to go all out because he was afraid of the Great Tribulation. Since that was the case, Chu Fengmian was in an invincible position. As long as you agree, I will naturally participate in the Six Nations expedition. The Martial Victory Academy will also be able to benefit from the Six Nations expedition and nurture a new saint. Chu Fengmian laughed loudly. Ji Lingtian's face turned pale when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. He did not expect that even the founding elder of the Wuxing Academy, Saint Shui Mo, would not be able to protect him. Founding elder, you can't do this. This brat is ambitious. He will destroy the Wuxing Academy sooner or later. If we don't kill him today, he will become a great threat in the future. Ji Lingtian said anxiously. You talk too much. Today, I will kill you first. Don't you have countless opportunities and fortuitous encounters? Now all of them are mine. Chu Fengmian shouted coldly and suddenly slapped Ji Lingtian with his palm. Ji Lingtian fell to the ground immediately. Chu Fengmian grabbed Ji Lingtian's body and extracted a strong spiritual energy. It was the Saint Transformation Herb that Ji Lingtian had obtained before. Chu Fengmian extracted it from Ji Lingtian's body. Ji Lingtian cursed madly when he saw the Saint Transformation herb that he had painstakingly obtained being extracted by Chu Fengmian. However, before he could say anything, Chu Fengmian slapped Ji Lingtian again and killed him. Ji Lingtian's cultivation methods and martial techniques were meaningless to Chu Fengmian. Only the Saint Transformation herb was the most precious. Yueli, the Saint Transformation herb's spiritual energy is for you. Although it has been refined, it still has 90% of its medicinal energy. It should be enough to help you become a saint. Although Ji Lingtian had refined this sacred transformation grass before, the sacred transformation grass would only erupt with all its medicinal efficacies at the instant of breaking through to the divine force realm. Therefore, the medicinal efficacies that Chu Fengmian extracted still contained 90% of the sacred transformation grass medicinal efficacies. It was already enough to help a person become a saint. Chu Fengmian injected the spiritual power of the Saint Transformation grass he obtained from Ji Lingtian into Han Yueli's body. Suddenly, Han Yueli's spiritual power began to rise steadily, reaching the peak of the Imperial Wind Realm in one fell swoop. As long as Han Yueli completely refined the medicinal power of the Saint Transformation herb, he would be able to break through the Divine Power Realm and become a saint. At the same time, Ji Lingtian's empty ring was also taken by Chu Fengmian. Ji Lingtian must have had countless adventures and treasures in his empty ring. Of course, Chu Fengmian wouldn't let him go. This scene was all done in front of Saint Shuemo. Since Saint Shuemo did not stop them, it was a tacit agreement. Lei Che, Qing Xiantian and Tang Xingjian saw Chu Fengmian's actions and wanted to stop him. However, when they thought of Chu Fengmian's strength, none of them wanted to become the second Feng Xiandao. They could only watch Chu Fengmian kill Ji Lingtian viciously. Well, Chu Fengmian, remember your promise. The Battle of the Six Nations will begin in 3 days. You can prepare now. Saint Shuemo looked at Chu Fengmian and said calmly, "Don't worry. I will not forget what I promised." Chu Fengmian laughed out loud. He brought Han Yueli with him and left in a flash. The ancient dragon turtle followed closely behind. No one present dared to stop Chu Fengmian and allowed him to swagger away. At this point, there was no other choice. They sacrificed Ji Lingtian to stop Chu Fengmian from making a scene. Today's battle was over. This time, Chu Fengmian made a scene in Wusheng Academy and ruined Ji Lingtian's wedding. It ended with Chu Fengmian's complete victory. In this battle, 3 saints fell. They were all killed by Chu Fengmian. The number 1 genius of Wusheng Academy, Ji Lingtian, was also killed by Chu Fengmian. From today onwards, Chu Fengmian's fierce name would spread across the entire Wusheng nation. Even the other 5 nations in the vicinity would hear of Chu Fengmian's name. "Founding Elder, why don't you kill this brat?" Lei Che asked Saint Shuemo after Chu Fengmian's escape light was far away. Their Wusheng Academy had never suffered such a big loss. Today, Chu Fengmian swaggered away, which made Lei Che gnash his teeth in hatred. That kid's origin is not simple. He already knew why I didn't dare to take action. Saint Shuemo said in a deep voice. If we kill him with all our strength, a life and death calamity will appear. At that time, let alone me, even the entire Wusheng Academy will be destroyed. It's not worth it for him alone. But Founding Elder, with your strength, even if you don't use all your strength, it's not impossible to suppress him. Together with the 3 of us, we might be able to kill him today. Qing Xiantian also said. Are we really going to allow that kid to be so arrogant and look down on our Wusheng Academy? Humph, you only know one thing and don't know the other. That white-haired man beside him, do you know his identity? Saint Shuemo snorted when he heard Qing Xiantian's words and said, Lei Che, tell us, with your strength at the first level of the Divine Power Realm, how did you lose to him? Reporting to Founding Elder, I only felt that the white-haired man's strength was extremely terrifying. It seemed to be more terrifying than many saints at the 3rd or 4th level of the Divine Power Realm. That's why I wasn't his match. Lei Che thought for a moment and replied respectfully. The primordial dragon turtle was so strong that he would never be able to fight it head-on. Naturally, he would lose. Could it be that the white-haired man is a genius nurtured by some super sect? Legend has it that some super sects, such as the Beiming Academy's geniuses, can achieve this. Could he be from the Beiming Academy? Lei Che suddenly thought of something and said aloud. Their Wuxing Academy could cover the sky with one hand in the Wuxing Nation and was also a colossus in the Six Nations. However, compared to the Beiming Academy that dominated the northern region, they were just like an ant. If Chu Fengmian was related to the Beiming Academy, then it was understandable that Saint Shui Mo wasn't willing to take action. Beiming Academy? What is the Beiming Academy? Even the Beiming Academy will be destroyed in front of that white-haired man. Saint Shui Mo sneered when he heard Lei Che's words. Chapter 268. Demon God? The True Dragon Clan? These two words triggered Lei Che, Cheng Xiantian, and Tang Xingjian. Cheng Xiantian and Tang Jianxing, in particular, immediately thought of the cause of Chu Heng Saint's death. Chu Heng Saint was killed by a demon god, and now it seemed like it was this white-haired man who had killed him. The second phrase, the True Dragon Clan, was the one that truly stimulated their minds. Dragons were the lords of all demons, and the True Dragon Clan was the most powerful clan among the demon beasts. Any expert from the True Dragon Clan was powerful enough to destroy countless factions like Wuxing Academy. Could it be that Chu Fengmian is related to the True Dragon Clan? Chu Fengmian blurted out. The True Dragon Clan would never submit to anyone else, unless they submitted to someone from the True Dragon Clan. If the white-haired man was a true dragon demon god, then Chu Fengmian's identity was intriguing. However, that white-haired man is not an ordinary true dragon, but a member of the ancient Dragon Clan, the top of the True Dragon Clan. Saint Shui Mo snorted coldly as his eyes flickered. You should be able to sense the dragon might on Chu Fengmian's body, right? It's very likely that such a monstrous fellow possesses the bloodline of that great character of the True Dragon Clan. That's why there's an ancient dragon demon god protecting him. If that's the case, then countless true dragons will trample our Wuxing Academy tomorrow if we suppress him today. Saint Shui Mo spoke with lingering fear. He actually wanted to use a portion of his spiritual energy to suppress Chu Fengmian. If he hadn't suddenly realized the identity of the ancient dragon turtle, he would have already suppressed him. A member of the True Dragon Clan, the others also gasped. A force like the True Dragon Clan wasn't something they could contend with. In front of the True Dragon Clan, their Wuxing Academy was just an ant. Founding Elder, what should we do? Lei Che asked. Should we express our goodwill to Chu Fengmian, or don't do anything? We haven't found out who this kid is. Perhaps he's also someone who had a true dragon adventure. A scheming look flashed across Saint Shui Mo's eyes. Now that he has killed the sect masters of the Candle Flame sect, the Freezing Snow Pavilion, and the Three Immortals Island, these three sects are not as weak as we thought. Naturally, they will take revenge on him. If that kid can't even deal with the revenge of the three major sects, he can't possibly be a member of the True Dragon Clan. When the time comes, all of you will attack. Kill that brat and take away his bloodline. Saint Shui Mo had lived for 1,000 years and was already a shrewd person. He immediately schemed and had the other three great sects test Chu Fengmian and investigate his background. Yes, I will follow your instructions, Founding Elder. The three of them lowered their heads and respectfully said a few words. Then, they scattered and began to settle the matter of the Wuxing Academy. Today's wedding was disrupted, and Wuxing Academy was in a mess. It was time to clean up the mess. Outside Wuxing Academy, Chu Fengmian and Han Yueli were flying toward the Freezing Snow Pavilion. Now that Chu Fengmian had killed Han Yueli's master, Elder Hanqing, was in great danger in the Freezing Snow Pavilion. The battle between the Six Nations would begin in 3 days. At that time, the entire Wuxing country would be engulfed in war. Therefore, Chu Fengmian had to settle the matter of the freezing snow pavilion within 3 days. Only then could he devote himself to the battle between the 6 nations. After such a great battle, it was reasonable to say that an ordinary saint would need to rest for 10 days to half a month. However, Chu Fengmian had the divine pulse and endless spiritual power. His dragon war skill was even more powerful. Now was the time to strike while the iron was hot. He could kill his way to the freezing snow pavilion and rescue Elder Hanqing. The freezing snow pavilion was located in an extremely strange snowy mountain in Wuxing country. For some reason, the mountain was covered with snow all year round. The freezing snow pavilion was hidden in the snowy mountain and built with ice. If not for Han Yueli's guidance, Chu Fengmian might have lost his way in the snowy mountain. After 2 hours, an ice palace appeared in front of Chu Fengmian's eyes. The freezing snow pavilion was as big as the Wuxing Academy. At a glance, there were countless palaces. Yueli, where will Elder Hanqing be imprisoned? Chu Fengmian glanced around and asked. If he didn't know the specific location, it would take him at least 10 days to half a month to search through the entire freezing snow pavilion. Based on the pavilion master's character, my master will definitely be imprisoned in the most heavily guarded ice room in the back mountain. Han Yueli said aloud and pointed in a direction. The ice room in the back mountain is over there. Fengmian, the disciples of the freezing snow pavilion are all my senior and junior sisters. Don't kill them. Han Yueli hesitated and said. She knew Chu Fengmian's character. Although Chu Fengmian would never kill for no reason, if someone offended Chu Fengmian would never show mercy. The disciples of the freezing snow pavilion were not without pride. She was also worried that someone would offend Chu Fengmian and cause a tragedy. Don't worry. I only kill those who deserve to be killed. Chu Fengmian smiled and directly flew toward the ice room in the back mountain with Han Yueli. Just as he was halfway there, a few streaks of light suddenly flew out from the freezing snow pavilion. A few white-clothed women appeared and cried out. Who is it? How dare you trespass into the freezing snow pavilion? The white-clothed women suddenly flew out and stopped in front of Chu Fengmian. Looking at Han Yueli beside Chu Fengmian, they were surprised. Senior Sister Han? Isn't it your wedding today? Why did you suddenly come back? Where are the pavilion master and the others? Didn't they come back? The disciples of the freezing snow pavilion saw Han Yueli and asked countless questions. Today was the wedding day of Han Yueli and the crown prince of the Wuxing Academy, Ling Tian. The whole freezing snow pavilion knew about it. So when they saw Han Yueli return to the freezing snow pavilion, they were all very surprised. Junior Sister Lan, Junior Sister Gu, let's talk about this later. First, let me go to the ice room in the back mountain to see Elder Hanqing. Han Yueli obviously recognized these people and said aloud. She didn't want to explain now. When the news spread to the freezing snow pavilion in a few days, everyone would naturally understand. Ice room in the back mountain? We can only let you in if the pavilion master gives the order. But if Junior Sister Han has something important to do, it's okay. Junior Sister Lan pondered for a moment and said. Han Yueli was in a hurry. Obviously, there was something important. They were all disciples of the sect, so they wouldn't make it too difficult. Thank you. Han Yueli's face showed some joy. When she was about to fly to the ice room in the back mountain with Chu Fengmian, a cold voice suddenly came. Chapter 269. As this cold voice sounded, a white-clothed woman suddenly appeared and blocked in front of Han Yueli. Although this white-clothed woman was a disciple of the cold snow pavilion, her face was cold and looked extremely sinister. Vice Pavilion Master Mo, greetings. Vice Pavilion Master Mo, Junior Sister Lan, Junior Sister Gu, and the others hurriedly greeted Vice Pavilion Master Mo respectfully. What? Junior Sister Han thinks that now that you're married, you're no longer a member of the cold snow pavilion? You don't need to salute me? Vice Pavilion Master Mo looked at Han Yueli and was slightly taken aback. He couldn't help but snort coldly. This person is one of the Vice Pavilion Masters of our Cold Snow Pavilion, Mo Miaohai. She is Mo Ruoshua's elder sister. Ever since Mo Ruoshua died in the Holy Land, she has always been hostile towards me. She is the one who initiated my master's imprisonment. Han Yueli looked at Mo Miaohai and spoke softly to Chu Fengmian. Her tone was also filled with resentment towards Mo Miaohai. If it weren't for her, Han Yueli's master, Elder Han Qing, wouldn't have been imprisoned in the ice room in the back mountain. And because of this, Han Yueli was forced to marry. She was the one who proposed to imprison Elder Han Qing and force Han Yueli to marry? Chu Fengmian snorted coldly in his heart and looked at Mo Miaohai with killing intent in his eyes. Obviously, he had found the culprit who forced Han Yueli to marry. With Han Yueli's character, even if she was killed, she wouldn't agree to marry Ling Tian. It was precisely because of this that Mo Miaohai came up with such a sinister plan to force Han Yueli. Han Yueli was adopted in the Cold Snow Pavilion and raised by Elder Han Qing. They were like mother and daughter. Only by holding Elder Han Qing hostage did Han Yueli obediently agree to the marriage. If Chu Fengmian had awakened any later today, then all of this would have been over. The main culprit behind all of this was Mo Miaohai, so naturally, all of the debts would be placed on Mo Miaohai. Brat, who are you? Our Cold Snow Pavilion does not allow men to enter. Have you forgotten, Han Yueli? Mo Miaohai looked at Chu Fengmian and said with a frown, all men who dare to enter our Cold Snow Pavilion will die. But since it's your first time, I'll cut off your arms to give you a warning. As he spoke, Mo Miaohai had already attacked. A black longsword appeared in his hand as he slashed towards Chu Fengmian. In her opinion, Chu Fengmian was just a little guy at the first level of the wind-controlling realm. As a half-saint at the peak of the wind-controlling realm, she naturally didn't take Chu Fengmian seriously. Without waiting for Chu Fengmian to open his mouth, he wanted to cut off Chu Fengmian's arms. This could be said to be extremely sinister. Cut off my arm? Even the saint experts of your Cold Snow Pavilion wouldn't dare to speak such arrogant words. Chu Fengmian said casually, but a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. He suddenly attacked and blasted a palm towards Mo Miaohai. Under this palm, the black longsword in Mo Miaohai's hand was shattered into countless pieces. Although it was only a profound-grade spirit tool, it was destroyed by Chu Fengmian in such a short time. This also shocked all the disciples of the Cold Snow Pavilion present. Who is he? What terrifying strength! Even Vice Pavilion Master Mo wasn't a match for him. When did Senior Sister Han know such a powerful person? Could he be the #1 genius of Wuxing country, Crown Prince Ji Lingtian? No, I've seen Ji Lingtian before. It's not him. He's much more arrogant than Ji Lingtian. Such a person, could he be the Chu Fengmian who caused havoc in Wuxing Academy 3 months ago? Didn't they say he died? How could he still be alive and come to the Cold Snow Pavilion with Senior Sister Han? Countless voices were constantly discussing. Chu Fengmian's palm strike had already held back a little. He didn't intend to completely fall out with the Cold Snow Pavilion. Otherwise, the palm strike just now would have been enough to kill Mo Miaohai. But even if he held back, Mo Miaohai's spirit tool had already been shattered by Chu Fengmian. Her mouth also suffered a part of Chu Fengmian's power, and she spat out a large mouthful of essence blood. Mo Miaohai's aura suddenly weakened a lot. The little bit of space law she comprehended in her body was completely destroyed by Chu Fengmian's palm strike. She directly fell from the half-saint realm to the realm of an ordinary peak wind-controlling realm martial artist. All her efforts to break through to the saint realm were all in vain. Chu Fengmian? You're Chu Fengmian? Hearing everyone's discussion, Mo Miaohai immediately guessed Chu Fengmian's identity. With such an arrogant character and such a self-proclaimed name, he could only be Chu Fengmian. You came at the right time today. If you didn't come, I would have been looking for you. Tell me, how did my sister die? Emo Miaohai asked, glaring at Chu Fengmian. Emo Miaohai had always been worried about Emo Ruoshua's death. Han Yueli had come out of the Holy Land alive, but Emo Ruoshua had died there. Emo Miaohai was convinced that Han Yueli had something to do with it. That was why she had been so hostile to Han Yueli. Now that she saw Chu Fengmian, she was even more certain. Everyone knew that Chu Fengmian had taken Grand Emperor Rich Lusha's treasure storehouse, and Emo Ruoshua had died trying to take it. Therefore, Chu Fengmian was very likely to be the one who had killed her. Emo Ruoshua? That's right. I killed her, Chu Fengmian said with decisiveness that could sever nails and chop iron. She dared to threaten me, Emo Miaohai said. That's a capital offense. She only has herself to blame for killing her. I gave her a chance, but she didn't cherish it. Now that she's dead, she deserves to die. And you, Chu Fengmian said coldly. I can't believe you dared to target Yueli. You forced her to marry you. You're my enemy. Today, I'll teach you a lesson. Chu Fengmian's words were cold and arrogant, causing Emo Miaohai's face to turn red with anger. According to Chu Fengmian, Emo Ruoshua had only herself to blame for her death. Such domineering words caused Emo Miaohai to fly into a rage. She had been trying to figure out who had killed Emo Ruoshua, and now that Chu Fengmian had admitted to it, her killing intent surged. So what if you got Grand Emperor Rich Lusha's treasure storehouse, Chu Fengmian? Do you really think that you'll be able to leave the frigid snow pavilion alive? Today is the day you die. Even if you're a sage, you're still going to die here, Emo Miaohai said in a shrill voice. Ice Profundity Devil Subduing Formation. Open. Chapter 270. Be careful, this is the Cold Snow Pavilion's mountain protecting array. Although Emo Miaohai can only activate a third of it, it's still extremely powerful. Although Han Yueli knew Chu Fengmian's strength, he still nervously reminded him. Mountain protecting array? Chu Fengmian's eyes were relaxed, as if he didn't put the mysterious ice demon subduing array in his eyes. At full power, the mysterious ice demon subduing array could at most contend against a saint at the first layer of the divine power realm. Even a saint at the first layer of the divine power realm could be casually crushed by Chu Fengmian, let alone a third of its power. Break for me. Chu Fengmian waved his hand, and countless spiritual energy transformed into a huge dragon claw, clawing at the mysterious ice demon subduing array. In the blink of an eye, a large crack was created in the mysterious ice demon subduing array. Emo Miaohua was instantly caught in Chu Fengmian's hand. As long as Chu Fengmian exerted some strength, Emo Miaohua would be a dead man. Who dares to be impudent in the cold snow pavilion? Arrogant person! How dare you break the cold snow pavilion's mountain protecting array? A gust of wind and snow suddenly descended, and a bone-piercing cold attacked Chu Fengmian. Everything around him turned into a world of ice and snow. A white-clothed woman who seemed to be in her 40s suddenly appeared. Her spiritual energy wasn't any weaker than Saint Shui Mo's. This also meant that the white-clothed woman before him was also a supreme expert at the peak of the divine power realm, one step away from the life and death realm. It seems like the four great sects aren't as weak as they seem. They all have their own foundations. Chu Fengmian thought inwardly. Since the Martial Victory Academy had a supreme expert at the peak of the divine power realm, the four great sects would also have one. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to maintain the current balance. It seemed like this person was the true old ancestor of the Cold Snow Pavilion, and also the true trump card of the Cold Snow Pavilion. A supreme expert at the peak of the divine power realm wouldn't normally appear. It was also because Chu Fengmian had broken the ice mystic demon subduing formation, the mountain protecting formation of the Cold Snow Pavilion, that this person was alarmed. Old ancestor. Seeing this person appear, Han Yueli hastily called out. This is the ancestor of our freezing snow pavilion, Saint Han Ning. She has lived for 1,000 years. Don't get into a conflict with her. It doesn't matter. I came to the cold snow pavilion today to save Elder Han Qing. As for the conflict with others, I have no intention of doing so. Chu Fengmian answered calmly. The reason why Chu Fengmian didn't kill Mo Miaohai just now was because he didn't intend to completely fall out with the cold snow school. Han Yueli, aren't you supposed to be marrying Ling Tian at the Martial Victory Academy? Why are you back? Saint Han Ning didn't know what was going on. She glanced at Chu Fengmian and suddenly asked, "What's going on? Who is he? Why did you bring him to the cold snow pavilion? The rules of the cold snow pavilion are not allowed to be broken. What happened today? You have to explain clearly." Saint Han Ning looked at Han Yueli and questioned. "He is my husband. He came with me today because of my master, Elder Han Qing. That's why he rashly entered the cold snow pavilion," Han Yueli said. Her words were so shocking that the surrounding people couldn't react for a moment. Husband? Isn't Han Yueli engaged to Crown Prince Ling Tian? What's going on? This person is obviously not Ling Tian. When did Han Yueli have such an engagement? Strange. However, he can break the mountain guarding Grand Array and capture Vice Pavilion Master Mo. This person can be considered an expert in the Martial Victory Academy. I wonder who he is? The commotion caused by breaking the mountain guarding Grand Array attracted many elders of the cold snow pavilion. They came to watch and discuss. Husband? Presumptuous. Han Yueli, aren't you engaged to Crown Prince Ling Tian of the Martial Victory Academy? Where did this husband come from? Did you run away because of him? This was simply the biggest joke in the world. Our cold snow pavilion's face is going to be lost. Saint Han Ning said angrily. She thought that Han Yueli had run away from the marriage and returned to the cold snow pavilion. Her eyes narrowed and she said angrily to Chu Fengmian, "Boy, no matter where you are from or what identity you have, Han Yueli has an engagement now. It's not something you can participate in. Leave now and I won't blame you." What a joke. I come and go as I please. You can't drive me away. Chu Fengmian said rudely when he heard Saint Han Ning's words. What's more, the engagement. Are you planning to marry Yueli to a dead man? A dead man can't get married. Dead man? Saint Han Ning frowned when she heard Chu Fengmian's words. She suddenly realized that what was happening now was not what she had expected. Boy, do you know what you're talking about? Han Yueli's fiancé is the crown prince of the Martial Victory Academy. How can you say that he's a dead man? Saint Han Ning said aloud. Saint Han Ning had heard of Ji Lingtian of the Martial Victory Academy. He was the next dean of the Martial Victory Academy and was about to become a saint. Such an outstanding person could even marry into the Martial Victory Academy. She was the one who agreed to this marriage. Ji Lingtian had died in the Martial Victory Academy? Furthermore, they were in Wuxing Academy. Even she couldn't believe it. Is that so? Whether Ling Tian is dead or not, you can check for yourself and you will know. Chu Fengmian didn't waste time and said coldly. With Saint Han Ning's strength, it wasn't difficult for her to find out everything. Saint Han Ning furrowed her brows and closed her eyes for a moment. Everything that had just happened in Wuxing Academy replayed in her mind. Especially when she saw Chu Fengmian killing Xianbing, Saint Han Ning's face became even more furious. Chu Fengmian killed Xianbing in the Martial Victory Academy. Xianbing was the pavilion master of the Cold Snow Pavilion. Now that Chu Fengmian killed the pavilion master of the Cold Snow Pavilion, he dared to swagger into the Cold Snow Pavilion. It's you? You're Chu Fengmian? You killed Xianbing and still dare to come to the Cold Snow Pavilion? Saint Han Ning's spiritual energy erupted the moment she spoke. However, she could only use a third of her strength, which was the strength of an ordinary saint at the second level of the divine power realm. Saint Han Ning and Saint Shuemo were both at the pinnacle of the divine power realm. They could trigger a life and death calamity at any time, so they didn't dare to use their full strength. However, a third of her strength was enough for Saint Han Ning to move unhindered in the Martial Victory Academy. Chapter 271. That's right. I killed Han Xianbing, but she deserved to die for forcing her disciple into a corner. Killing her is also a great help to the Cold Snow Pavilion. Chu Fengmian said arrogantly. If he wanted to kill someone, he would kill them. He had never needed to hide anything. Everyone he killed deserved to die. Facing Han Ning Saint's attack, Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. He pulled out the scarlet flame sword and slashed out with sword qi. I didn't intend to fight, but since Han Ning Saint wants to exchange a few moves with me, I won't be afraid. The sword qi slashed towards Han Ning Saint. The two forces collided, and Han Ning Saint was forced to take a few steps back. Facing Chu Fengmian, she thought she could easily win. She used less than a third of her strength, but she was forced back by Chu Fengmian. Saint Han Ning, I'm sure you're aware of my strength. If you really intend to fight me today, your freezing snow pavilion will be destroyed. Chu Fengmian unhurriedly withdrew his sword and said calmly after gaining the upper hand in one move. He didn't come to the cold snow pavilion to make a scene. He wanted to let Han Ning Saint know his strength. Without strength, everything was empty talk. But with strength, even Han Ning Saint wouldn't dare to attack Chu Fengmian. After all, if she wanted to defeat Chu Fengmian, she would have to use all her strength. Under the threat of death, she didn't dare to use her full strength. As expected, your strength is extremely strange. You can fight against a saint with only the wind controlling realm. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. Saint Han Ning retracted her spiritual energy and stood in front of Chu Fengmian, sizing him up with her eyes. Tell me, why did you come to the cold snow pavilion? Elder Han Qing. As long as you release Elder Han Qing, I will leave. Chu Fengmian said calmly. Chu Fengmian had always minded his own business in the cold snow pavilion. If the cold snow pavilion didn't provoke Chu Fengmian wouldn't provoke them either. Chu Fengmian came to the cold snow pavilion only because Han Yueli's master, Elder Han Qing, was trapped in the cold snow pavilion and was in danger. As long as he could save Elder Han Qing, Chu Fengmian would leave immediately. Elder Han Qing is an elder of Han Snow School. How does Han Snow School treat her? It has nothing to do with an outsider like you. Saint Han Ning sneered and glanced at Han Yueli. What's more, you said that you are Han Yueli's husband. She is a disciple of our Han Yueli. Her wedding must be decided by our Han Yue pavilion. Now you want to take her away? How arrogant! As soon as Chu Fengmian arrived at the cold snow pavilion, he broke the mountain protection array of the cold snow pavilion, captured Vice Pavilion Master Mo, and forced Saint Han Ning to retreat. Against such a junior, Saint Han Ning wanted to cut down Chu Fengmian's prestige. However, Chu Fengmian was not the kind of person who would allow himself to be trampled on. Judging from Saint Han Ning's words, you don't intend to let her go? Chu Fengmian frowned, and his expression turned cold. He had come here to give face to Saint Han Ning, and that was why he had come to discuss things with her. Otherwise, with Chu Fengmian's strength, he could just swagger in and take Elder Han Qing away. Saint Han Ning could not stop him. Unless Saint Han Ning wanted to trigger a life and death tribulation and attacked with all her strength, there was no way she could stop Chu Fengmian. Since Saint Han Ning did not intend to give Chu Fengmian any face, Chu Fengmian would not give her any face either. What ancestor of Han Snow School? In Chu Fengmian's opinion, Han Snow School only had Han Yueli and her master, Elder Han Qing. Chu Fengmian did not care about them. As for the others, in Chu Fengmian's opinion, they were no different from strangers or even dogs. Let her go? Why should we let her go? Boy, you are too arrogant. We, the cold snow pavilion, won't back down just because someone forced us. Saint Han Ning sneered. She glanced at Chu Fengmian and said coldly, no matter who comes here today, don't think that Han Snow School will let her go. Furthermore, the matter between you and Han Yueli does not count without the consent of our cold snow pavilion. Han Yueli is a disciple of Han's snow school. As for Han Yueli's husband, who is it? Naturally, Han's snow school will decide. Saint Han Ning said bluntly. Chu Fengmian's retreat made her even more imposing. Now that they were in Han's snow school's territory, she did not believe that Chu Fengmian would dare to cause any trouble. Ancestor, you really don't plan to let my master go? Han Yueli could not help but ask. She did not expect Han Ning's saint to be so unyielding. It seemed that today, not only would Elder Han Qing not be able to leave, but she would also have to stay. Han Yueli, if you are still a disciple of Han's snow school, come here now and break off your relationship with this boy. Even if Ling Tian dies, I will arrange a new marriage for you in the future. As a disciple of Han's snow school, everything you do should be for the sect, including yourself. Han Ning's saint said bluntly. She even grabbed Han Yueli with her palm. She wanted to grab Han Yueli from Chu Fengmian's side. Is that so? It seems that you really think that I am a soft persimmon that you can pinch as you wish. Chu Fengmian saw Han Ning's saint's action and was immediately enraged. How dare she snatch Han Yueli in front of him? Now, there was no need to talk about it anymore. Chu Fengmian roared. The scarlet flame sword in his hand condensed boundless killing intent. Suddenly, he slashed out with his slaughtering sword technique. 1,000 feet long blood-red sword chi immediately repelled Han Ning's saint's palm. A group of old men, you really think that you are a big shot. Han Ning's saint, if you don't hand over Elder Han Qing today, there is no need for your Han Snow School to exist. Chu Fengmian's mind moved and suddenly shouted coldly towards the distance. Luo He. Suddenly, a ray of light rapidly flew over. It was the ancient dragon turtle. Chu Fengmian did not plan to use force, so he did not let the ancient dragon turtle follow him. But just in case, he let the ancient dragon turtle wait outside. It seemed that today's negotiation would not go well. Today, no matter what, Chu Fengmian was going to take Elder Han Qing away so that he wouldn't have to worry about the future. Another saint? The sudden appearance of the ancient dragon turtle was obviously beyond Han Ning's saint's expectation. Old man, since you don't know what's good for you today, I will start a massacre. Chu Fengmian said, his eyes full of killing intent. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.